Starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, I call to order the Single Family Design Board meeting of January 19th, 2021. Mary, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. This is Mary, Commission Secretary. I'll go ahead and take the roll call. We have Board Member Miller.
Here.
Board Member Klas.
Present.
Board Member Klein.
Here.
Board Member Motisha.
Here.
Board Member Sweeney.
Here.
And Board Member Ziegler.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mary. I'd like to introduce the two new members of the board, Leslie Colas and Katie Klein. Ms. Colas is a licensed architect and Ms. Klein is a licensed landscape architect. So welcome to both of you. This is the first full board meeting of the year, and the first order of business will be the election of officers. So I'll open the floor now to nominations for chair.
I would like to nominate Brian Miller for.
I'll second it.
Who was the second, please? I'm sorry.
Second it.
Board
Ziegler.
members, Ziegler, okay. All right, are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none. Mary, can you take the roll call, please?
Yes, thank you, Barbara. I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. We have Board Member Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Colas,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you.
All
Well,
right,
thank you. I think.
Congratulations, Chair Miller. I'll open the floor now for nominations for vice chair.
Ooh.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Fred Sweeney.
I'll second it.
Okay, do we have any other nominations? All right, hearing none, I'll ask Mary to take the roll call.
All right, this is Mary. I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. We have Chair Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Colas,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mary, and Chair Miller, I'll hand the meeting over to you.
All right, thank you very much, and welcome to our new board members. Before I begin, I was wondering, would you guys like to introduce yourselves and kind of say what you've done and your experience, just so we all kind of know who you are, and if you have any questions with us, more than welcome to ask you any questions or answer any questions.
Sure.
Sure. I can go
Either one.
first.
Okay.
Katie Klein. I'm a licensed landscape architect. I have been working in landscape architecture for the last 7 years in Santa Barbara. And the last year, I started my own company, focusing mostly on residential, but I have a background in commercial. And then in a previous life, I also worked for Goleta Water District in water conservation. So I'm fairly knowledgeable on irrigation as well.
Very good.
Yeah, if you have any questions for me.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome.
Graduated. Katie, where did you graduate from? What college?
Great question. I went to UCSB for undergrad, and then I got a master's from Cal Poly Pomona in landscape architecture.
Good.
Cool.
Mhm.
Fabulous.
You from this area? Are you from Santa Barbara?
I'm from Napomo, so just a bit north.
Okay. You're up there with
Hey, Katie, I'm raising my hands. My wife grew up in Napomo. and
Oh,
that's
really?
And that's where we were married 50 years this coming year.
Wow.
I know Napomo backwards and forwards.
Wow, I would never have guessed that. Good to know.
Okay, we're gonna all have to go to
Relationship
Jocko's
with
when the
Pomona.
restaurant opens. And Leslie, how about you?
Let's see. I was raised but not born in Santa Barbara. My father was transferred here when I was about 4. So I've been here the better part of my life, except when I fled to San Luis Obispo and attended Cal Poly, where I have a degree in architecture from. I do have a license in architecture to practice. I interned locally. I had my own practice here for about 12 years. doing primarily residential and tenant improvement work. And then I went on to do some larger project work, primarily in a construction administration capacity. For the last 7 years, I've been at UCSB project managing, and just trying to kind of get back into a little bit of residential work, which is kind of where my heart lies. So this is a nice place to be, and town has changed a lot, and I'm looking forward to looking at what comes out at us with you guys.
Great, welcome you guys. And just to say real quickly, you know, I've been on this board since 2008, I believe now. But great group of people, and just want to say, as you will, you know, get more familiar, more comfortable being on our board, it's very interesting right now because of all the things happening in terms of housing, the ADU projects with regular homes, and the different rules and laws that are kind of affiliated with that, which you will see when we go through these different projects. So anyway, so welcome. So I better get started. So we're going to move on to our...
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Sweeney,
Before you
please.
start, just one comment.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you all for supporting for our position as vice chair. But I only agreed because I hope the new members are prepared to take this over as soon as possible. I've already done all of this stuff, so you guys need to step forward. But given the fact you're relatively new and Joe wants to keep working with his grandkids, I'll sit in as vice chair. Thanks.
Thanks, Fred.
Fred, you kind of took, not that I don't want to be chair, I'm flattered and honored, and that's why I was quiet. I just was.
I'd like to ask a question about the ADU meeting. Is this the right time for that, or is that afterward?
Well, is it just a direct question with a quick answer, or is it a discussion item? If it's a discussion item,
there was an ADU meeting this week, a webinar. I don't know
Yes.
if you were on it.
Yes, I attended.
yes.
I attended too, and I had some questions about it, so that's what I wanted to ask.
Well, perhaps we can, if there are questions to staff, perhaps we can ask those during our announcements segment under F.
Okay.
Thank you. So let's moving on to let's see, item C. It's appointment of consent review representatives and subcommittees. So we need to do that. I thought that was already done. Can someone from city staff help me with this? Where'd they?
Mr. Chair and board members, yes, we'll need to conduct the appointment of the consent review representatives, and we have a list of the current representatives available to show on screen if you'd like to refer to that. And since we did have board member James leave the board, there is technically an open spot on consent review. So essentially what we need to do is confirm that you, agree with the consent review or agree with the consent review reps, and also find a new consent review rep. So it might be helpful, Timmy, if we can put that sheet on the screen if we have it, or you can just pull up the slide. Okay, so currently we have board member Sweeney and board member Motisha and board member Miller on rotation. And Katie Klein, board member Klein, is also serving as the landscape expert. So if you agree with that current rotation, then we can continue with that. If you want to make changes, then now's the time to do so.
Mr. Hamilton, just have one question. If that is indeed our consent calendar, does that mean Katie doesn't move on and off? She's there the whole time as the landscape person?
Board member Sweeney, Mr. Chair, yes, that does mean that Katie would have to, or that board member Klein would have to sub in for landscaping, at least until we can get a 7th member on the board. We only have 6 members right now. So if we are able to get a 2nd landscape expert on the board, then we can do that. And I believe the soonest that could be done per the city calendar would be in June. So we might have to wait till June, but hopefully we'll have somebody by then.
Thank you.
Katie, you can have the whole city re-landscape by then.
Sounds good to me.
Well, thank you. So has that been, so I guess I'm quite not clear, but I understand Motisha and Katie are on the consent right now. Is that correct? Doing Manning consent?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct,
So
Chairman.
okay, so moving on, let's go to approval of the minutes for the Single Family Design Board for December 21st, 2020. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I'm sorry,
approve.
Mr. Chair. We need to do a public comment first.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I skipped it.
No problem. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on an item not on today's agenda, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel, which indicates to me that you wish to speak. While we wait for hands, Mary, did we receive any written comment for items not on today's agenda?
Thank you, Barbara. We did receive general written correspondence and it was distributed to the board before this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Chair Miller, there are no hands raised, so I will hand it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
I have a question of staff. On the letter that was submitted for general comment today, not for an item not on the agenda, it was specific to an address for a project that I'm assuming may come back to our board at a future date. My question is, that letter had some specific issues. Does the staff present that letter to the fire department folks to make them aware of that, or how does that work? Or does it just go in the file?
Board Member Sweeney and Mr. Chair, that letter can just go in the file. That is all that the sender of the letter requested. So it is in the case file and it's being distributed to you as well.
Would it be appropriate to note to the staff that if in fact that project does come back to it, that there's an opportunity for the fire department to weigh in on the issues outlined in that letter?
The project will be routed to the fire department as just part of the regular review.
Oh, okay. All right.
And beyond that, it doesn't require any additional attention. I mean, the applicant is welcome to bring it up to the fire department on their own, on their own volition.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving to item D again, approval of the minutes for December 21st, 2020. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I so move.
So moved. Oh,
Nope, I think
Second.
Jonathan beat you.
Okay, I'll be second.
Oh, wait a minute, you just. Okay, so Jonathan made the motion. May I have a second, please?
Second. Fred.
Okay, thank you.
First.
Then we go through the items, please.
Oh, those are the ones you read, Brian.
Okay, 3030 Seacliff. (1726) Calle Boca del Cañon. For the new members of the board, this is your opportunity to review the minutes from the previous meetings, so that if you see any errors or omissions or any changes that you see, this is your time to bring that up. That's kind of what we're doing. We're reviewing the different items in the minutes that were recorded. So item number 3, 3150 Seacliff Lane. Item number 4, 14414 Yankee Farm Road. Hearing no changes or alterations, may I have I can't think of the word at the moment. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is Mary. I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. We have Chair Miller,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Colas,
I'll abstain because I was not an attendee of the last meeting.
okay, thank you. Board Member Klein,
I'll also abstain.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item E, approval of the consent calendar for December 21st, 2020. May I have a motion for approval, please?
Chair Miller, if I could interject quickly, we do have an error on the agenda for this item. The approval for the consent calendar of December 21st, 2020 has already taken place. So today we have just the consent calendar approval from January 11th, 2021.
Okay, thank you. So, may I have a motion for approval, please?
I'll move.
May I have a second, please?
I second it.
Thank you. Ms. Burkhart, can you go through the items, please?
Sure. Item A was at 1721 Gillespie Street. The motion was for project design approval and final approval with the comment that the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria had been met. Item B was for 2032 Cielito Lane. The motion was for project design approval and final approval with comments.
All right, thank you. Traditionally, normally they say, who are the board members that reviewed the items, please?
Let's see, I'm sorry, Ted, can you help me with that? I'm not sure. It was Chair Miller?
It was Chair Miller.
Chair Miller alone, I remember. Sorry about that.
Okay, that was an interesting session. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. This is Mary. I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. We have Chair Miller,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Colas,
I will abstain from this item as well for the same reasons as the last.
all right, thank you. Board Member Klein,
Abstain as well.
okay. Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All
Yeah,
right, moving on. Yes,
Yeah, I would not, maybe I missed it, like today, don't we approve and today's consent calendar? Or do we wait on that? I'm sorry.
Chair Miller and Board Member Motisha, yes, normally we would do so. However, there was an error on today's agenda, so we'll agendize it for our next full board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
thank you, Mr. Motisha, good question. All right, moving on to item F, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items and appeals. So I believe there was a question perhaps that was asked by Mr. Ziegler.
Yes, Chair Miller and Board Member Ziegler, the ADU question that Board Member Ziegler has would need to be agendized, so we can add that to the next full board agenda if you would like to discuss at that time.
Okay.
You can add that. Okay.
And I just want to add, I thought it was a very good, very informative session. So yeah, I think that'd be great to add that. Okay, item G, subcommittee reports. I don't believe we have any at this time. Is that correct? Hearing none, I will move on to item 1. Do we have a representative for item 1? It's 1459 El Solito Road. This is a new item, so I'll read it into the record. The proposal to construct a new 2-story single-family residence with an attached 2-car garage, as well as a new pool, spa, and rear patio on a vacant lot. The 43,833 square foot lot is located in the Hillside Design District with an average slope of 31%. Two project scenarios are given. In the first, a proposed total of 4,747 square feet of development is 95% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio. And in the other proposal, total of 3,489 square feet of development is 70% of the guideline maximum FAR. No final appealable action will take place at this hearing. The project requires neighborhood preservation findings in hillside design districts and slope lot findings. So they're here for comments only, I believe. And Mr. Wolf, I believe I see you. So if you'd like to show us your project and kind of explain to it. Yes,
If I can interject quickly and just give a few comments before that.
please.
Okay, so you're correct. The project is here for comments only. And in addition to comments on design aesthetics, the applicant is seeking your input on the proposed flex space and whether or not it is acceptable to develop it as floor area or to leave it unfinished. And then also we'd like to point out that there currently is a trash enclosure on the plans which encroaches into the interior setback. The applicant has indicated to me that he will be moving it out of the setback. Otherwise, it would require a modification. I just wanted to make you aware of those things. And Mr. Wolf, you may go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Barbara, and good morning, afternoon, members, and congratulations, Brian, on another year of being the chair. All right.
Thank you.
So as Barbara mentioned, the two options there, and we'll go through the plan, is because there's the new home is being built up on somewhat of a podium, which is an undeveloped land area down below the space. And it'll make more sense once we get into the floor plan there.
Bill, let me stop you real quick before you go on with your presentation. I just want to let know the new board members, traditionally when the presenter presents a project, I tend to mute and turn off my webcam just so that he's there alone. But you don't have to, that's just an option, but sometimes it's helpful just to have the presenter present his project, and then we come back. So just to let you know.
Okay, great, thank you. If we could move on to the second page there, those are the FARs that you're seeing there. Oh, where'd the drawings go? There we go. Okay, if we can scroll on to the next page there. Rob Fowler too might be trying to get in on the call here. He's landscape architect. I don't see his name up there. Maybe Barbara or Ted, you could try to help him get in. Next sheet, please, the site plan. So this is kind of the neighborhood site plan. It's a flag lot. The home that was on there burned back in the T-fire. So it's been a vacant lot for quite a few years here. And this, it's a long driveway that leads down to the property, down to the pad and where the home is. Like I said, a flag lot, so it's surrounded by other lots. It's well screened and virtually invisible from the street itself, which is El Cielito. So as you can see, we're kind of running that dashed line that you see dark in there is where the existing home that burned in the T-fire was. The footprint is still there. There are some site photos in the file somewhere if you want to see what it looks like. But it's fairly well wooded. That driveway has quite a bit of planting and landscaping on both sides of the driveway. And then it's very well screened kind of from all other angles as well. So we can go on to the next page. There's kind of the neighborhood again, kind of showing the other homes, fairly spaced apart from each other. The closest one is to the east. The one above us is a two-story home. That one is to the north of us. And then as you can see, it drops down the hill substantially, and there's quite a bit of screening and brush in that little valley there. Let's go on to the next page. These are kind of the site sections showing kind of how the property reacts there, the driveway. There's our proposal, and then as you can see, the drop down the hill. And we are tucking it into parts of it, we're going to be tucking into the topography there. So the lower open flex space, as you might call it, is sort of like a daylight basement. Half of it's buried, and then of course the other side is open to the view. Let's go to the next sheet, please. Again, this is kind of our footprint arrangement. There really isn't a lot. What we did do is we kept the driveway comes in and you pull straight into the garage. That was kind of how it was set up before. So we've kept the garage generally in the same location that it was in the original home. And then we've kind of built this fairly simple, modest home running sort of east and west on the property there. I'll let Rob get into the descriptions of what we're doing with the site, but we've got a proposal for a small spa, small pool, some patio area down on the lower levels there. And there's the trash on the far west or left side of the sheet. That will get moved up against the building most likely, and we'll reroute that pathway around there. So we'll get that trash area out of the setback. Let's go to the next sheet. So our lower floor is a garage, a stairway leading up to the main body of the building, and sort of this covered lanai. This covered lanai and the unfinished open flex space is really just kind of open, undeveloped. We might pour a slab in there just to kind of have it, but at this point, there's no plan for any development of any sort. But we did want to look at adding that as a part of the floor area ratio. If it ever did get developed, we wanted to know what that would be. So that's what the 95% FAR is if that was completely built out and made into living space. Currently it is not. So the other number, 70%, is with it open like it is showing now. Let's go to the next page. 2-car garage, very simple. Again, stairway up. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, kitchen, family living, deck off the upper. The bedrooms have little decks area. The master comes off with a stairway that leads you to the side yard where the spa is over there. Again, fairly simple. And we're playing, you'll see in the elevations, we're playing with roof lines and getting as much window and view out to the views. There's some wonderful views out down through that canyon to the ocean. Let's go on to the next sheet. There's our roof plan. It'll make more sense when you see it in elevation. Let's go to the next sheet. So this is kind of the arrangement here. We've got a 9-foot lower plate. We've got some varying plates on the upper level. They vary from 9 feet to 12 on the highest point. We've got some flat roofs with parapets. We've got some overhangs. The materials are going to be a plaster finish on the upper, possibly a board form concrete on the lower elevation. It'll be a metal window and door like a Fleetwood or something similar. And it'll be a dark bronze. I do have some colored renderings too, just to kind of give you an idea of the massing, and that might help you see this better. So let's go on to those next elevation sheet there. Oh, sorry, go back one more. Again, that down there is sort of our proposal for the gate. Again, it's about 6'6" at pilaster. And it sits, I think, about 30 feet off the street. So it's pretty well concealed. And this might be maybe a weathered steel or a painted steel gate, louver kind of a feel. Again, fairly contemporary and simple. And Rob will show you some of the landscaping that he has done. Let's go on to the next. And there's our backside with our balcony. And again, there's some play in that elevation. It's not just a straight shot the balcony portion on the left side is a little out further than the balcony portion on the right. Let's keep going through. I want to give Rob some time. There's kind of our typical section. There you can see how the retaining down on the lower floor retains back for that open flex space. Let's go to the next. Again, a section through the building showing the plate heights. You can go on to the next sheet. And another, keep moving. These are, I think, some of the electrical. We've done some preliminary electrical mechanical. You can pass through these. Next page. There's kind of our lighting underfloor. It'll all be recessed underneath, so we won't have any exposed light fixtures, all night sky compliant. Go to the next page. Keep moving. There's kind of the rendering. So again, kind of natural tones, tans and buffs and grays and dark muted tones, you know, again, to try and blend into that topography of the hillside there. And of course, Rob Fowler's drawings will definitely illustrate how that's all going to be very well greened and screened up. I will note that that is not a glass garage door, just so you know. But on the back side, on the view side, that is a glass door that leads, a sliding door that leads out to the yard. So let's go on to the 3Ds there. There's kind of the models if you want to zoom into some of those, just to kind of give you an idea of the shape. Again, a lot of play happening, not a lot of flat and just boring. We've kind of undulated both the faces and the elevations of all of it so that we can just get some shadow lines. Long overhangs on the south side to help cut down on glare and sunshade into those spaces as well. And again, kind of nestled into the topography of that slope. It may say 30% on the topography of what it is, but most of that's taken up in the hillside. The pad where we are building is really essentially where the original house was, which I believe was a 2-story home. And I don't think we're exceeding the height of what that home was. Okay, next sheet. I think we're going to be in the landscape here. Okay, and I'm going to hand this off to Rob Fowler for his landscape description.
Hello, board members. Can we scroll into that drawing around the house a little more, or
zoom in?
Do that, or?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like as Bill explained, you come into the site, you drop into the site, you're basically going through an oak woodland. So we were kind of nicely gifted with a driveway that already meandered through the oak trees. And so it's got a very nice feel to it. And then when you kind of come out of the oaks, you come onto the site and you have this great ocean view. But if you see the site, you can see by my drawing, I went on to Google Earth and meticulously tried to mimic the rock outcroppings. So there's a lot of rock outcroppings that you see there. And so the intent of the hardscape is really to, and the architecture is kind of let the architecture and the hardscape kind of go out and go out into the site and let some of that site kind of come back and into around the building. So there's that edge that you see there between the hardscape and the rock. Really try to kind of have that as a nice transition and let that hardscape and that concrete almost kind of butt right into those rocks, and so that'll have a very nice natural feel when it's in there, but when it's constructed. The owners are really looking for a real kind of modern minimalist look, and so that's what I try to emulate. And you see by the hardscape is fairly simple and kind of laid out. There's some center lines and axial lines that the owner really wanted to emphasize. So and then we've kind of included some other opportunities with the pool, with the spa. There's the potential for some vegetable gardens there that drop down. So everything is we're trying to work with the site. We're trying to work with the grades. And then can we then go on to the next sheet, please? PL2, and then maybe scroll in on that. You don't see a lot of landscape because we have the oaks really create the atmosphere, and also we have apartments, so we have the defensible space issues that we're trying to work with. And so, the plant palette is some olive trees at some key points, some arbutus, and then we have a palette of a lot of agaves and tree aloes, some succulents, but actually a fairly simple plant palette. And also we have some, we have a couple spots with some of the neighbors that we want to try to effectuate some screening. But for the most part, this house and the site is pretty well concealed within that site. So it's got a great feel to it. We're really trying to maintain that. Bill, do you have anything to add?
No, did you go through your other sheets? Was there anything else in there that you wanted to express? There's a large boulder, we didn't mention that, that's kind of a natural property on the far west or east end. And it's just kind of a nice feature that we're sort of building around. So we're not removing any trees or any plants to do what we're doing. We're pretty much keeping all the natives that are there and down the hill, as Rob had mentioned. And he's really just kind of picking up the pallet and carrying and running with it. So anyway, that's I think all we've got for presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Did we get any public comment?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel, which indicates to me that you wish to speak. While we wait for hands, Mary, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thank you, Barbara. We did not receive any written public comment for this item. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mary. Chair Miller, there are no hands raised at this time, so I'll hand it back to you for questions.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to go down my list on the agenda of the board members, and what this is I'll call your name, and then if you have any questions about the project, please ask the presenter of any of those questions. So Leslie Calais, do you have any questions?
I do have a couple questions for the applicant, and I'm reading here, so it's difficult to engage with the eye when one is looking down on this webinar, so bear with me. If I'm not engaging, it's because I'm looking at my notes here.
Trust me, it's all an adjustment, so you're not alone.
We're good.
Right.
Good.
It's
No
COVID.
No
Yes.
One of the questions that I had, your elevations appear to illustrate flat roofs for the most part, or what I'd call a raked roof. The plans that I saw, however, appear to illustrate hipped roofs in terms of the way those are shown, your roof plan. So I just wanted to, I'm assuming that might be a drafting issue, but I just wanted to make sure I was understanding right that they're effectively flat.
They are flat, and that is illustrating a very slight 1% slope as we would be doing a foam rooftop to show how we were going to get water away from the centers of the building. So it appears to be a hip, but it's flat. Essentially, you won't see that pitch on it.
Okay, and are you proposing like a Sarnaclad type of roofing, or would it be more of a rock roof or a built-up roof?
It'll probably be the PVC, the single ply weld seam type. So yes, it'll be probably a gray tone of some sort, and not rock at this point.
Okay, that was one of my questions, because I think the neighbor to the north I agree that you're well screened there. I'm vaguely familiar with this parcel. And I think you're well screened. The only question I had was whether that second story home to the northeast of this parcel would be looking down on the roof. And so, reflectivity was a concern. So a darker gray would make sense. I guess that would be a question as to whether there's any intent to ultimately put solar panels on the roof also, because I think that would be, something to consider for that neighbor. I'm a little bit confused by the flex space and sort of what the intention is there. I could see how you're asking the question, and maybe this is something that the owners want to build in some flexibility for future expansion. If that were to be usable space, I'm assuming that would affect a change in the facade, and then you'd have to come back for some revisions and a building permit on that. So I'm not really going to comment on that, except to say that it seems like this flex space is sort of pushing the house into a second story condition. And I don't know if that's desirable from a view standpoint for the applicant or for the owners. The parcel has an amazing view anyhow, so I don't know that a second story is really required for that. But I know it doesn't affect the neighbors also. The only other thing that I would say is the large boulder on this parcel is amazing. People would pay a lot of money to have that boulder trucked in, and I'm just not getting the sense, and maybe Katie could speak to this better than I, but I'm not getting the sense that is really being engaged. It feels like it's kind of being dismissed. And so I don't know if there's some other way to integrate that into the home in a more meaningful fashion. I think that generally speaking, the project is attractive. I don't think there's, yeah.
Sorry. So what we're doing, you're great.
Oh, just questions.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Questions and comments.
I'll stop.
So we're going to.
Those were the only questions I had, were primarily about the roof.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Ask the other questions if you wanted about the flex space, but.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, perhaps Bill could address the questions about the flex space and what the intent there is.
Yeah, it is budget driven to a large degree. They didn't want to spend the extra money to develop that currently. They might in the future, they may not. They may not need it. They were thinking, well, if it's there, maybe we'll do it. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. And it would require design review, because we would be coming back with additional changes to the plan. And so that would require a permit. So it would come in front of this board once again for your review. And of course, we would treat it with sensitivity as well. And then to address the boulder, it may not show it very well, but we do actually have quite a few windows, including the bathroom. There's a tub that sits right in front of that window, which looks down on the boulder. And from the master, we're looking at the boulder from that side too. I didn't want to build on top of it or in it or over it. I wanted to respect it being it by itself and view onto it from the building. So that was the thinking I had.
But and let me add to that. I think the intent, as far as the that will show up in a final planting plan, is my intent is really in a way that it's detailed with the planting, and then adding maybe some other little rocks so that people can get up on the boulder. So we absolutely value that boulder, and we definitely want to make good use of it, and so does the owners. So that's just something I think we'll show more when we do the final drawings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
Yes. Are there any existing trees to be removed? You have a lot of new trees, which is great, but are there any existing to be removed.
Rob, I don't think we're removing any trees, are we? Is there a tree at the front?
There's some weed trees and like I think there's an acacia that's in the it might not even be on the survey, but it's in the footprint of the existing building. But no, we're not really. There's no intent to remove any significant tree. There is one oak tree out there that's kind of fairly compromised and doesn't look very good, and I may consider moving that because I don't think it is in good health and will last very long. So, but other than that, got a lot of great oaks, and really that kind of sets the tone for the site. We don't want to kind of ruin that.
Great, thank you. That's all.
All right.
That was my only question.
Thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions, please?
Joe, you're
Gotta unmute. Push that button.
Yeah. Okay, Bill. Nice to have you join us. We'll join you. The front door is down only at the foyer, and that's the front door. The lower floor spreads out from that front door, and the stairway goes up to the main living level of the house. Is that true?
Yes, yeah, you enter in at the ground level. If you zoom in on that upper left corner, sorry. Go to the upper left corner, you'll see, you enter in that vestibule there, and that, if you go straight through that vestibule, you'll end up in the little lanai that's out back on the lower level. If you go up the stairs, of course, it'll lead you to the main residence.
One of your floor had a great, it's quite a big area that's down on the first floor underneath the main living area. Is that, have you designated what that's going to be?
Yes, that's a lanai area, and it's got a fireplace as well to it. So it is an indoor-outdoor. There's no glass on the view side, but there is a door that separates that area from the entry stairwell.
Got it. And where is the area that your second proposal that you're going, if you enclose it, it brings the FAR so up much higher? Where is that?
If you go back to the floor plan, the lower floor plan, I can show. Oop. Oh, keep going. Yeah, you're good. One more. There you go. Okay. So if you scroll down just a little bit, there's the entry, Joe, with the stairwell. You go through that vestibule into the lanai. And if you head to the east, on the other side of that fireplace, that unfinished open flex space is potentially the area where somebody could develop more living space.
That's the area I was questioning that looked so big to me, and you were indicating it was the lanai. So it has all that first story underneath the main floor is potentially developable, yeah. And
for you to say.
Bring that FAR way up high.
Yes, it could be. And just a note to you, Joe, that uphill side of that, on the upper part of that wall, that's a retaining wall. So,
correct.
So it tucked into the hillside there, 5-6 feet or so, retaining. So for what it's worth, just so you get an understanding of how that feels and looks.
Correct. The stone that we're talking about is on this plan, is on the right end of this plan.
Right? It is right there. Yes.
Yeah, right.
It's right there. Yeah.
Okay. That's the end of my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Board Member Sweeney, do you have questions, please?
Yes. Let me stick with the flex space. Roughly, what's the square footage of that flex space?
Oh, let me see here. it's probably listed on the cover sheet if you want to go back to that.
Okay, if we were in our usual meeting, I would have just taken a scale and answered my own question, but I can't do that on the screen.
Fred, I think the delta between the two is about 1,288 square feet. I think I read that somewhere.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I needed to know.
Actually, there it is, 1288.
So this is a confirmation question to Mr. Burkhart or Mr. Hamilton, whoever can answer the question. Mr. Wolf has indicated that if the current owners wanted to come and develop that later, they would have to come back in for a building permit, and it would be it would come back before this board. However, if they wanted to do an ADU, given the map, I think they could do up to 1,200 square feet. They could develop that flex space with an ADU without having to come back to any design review, correct?
Board Member Sweeney, Ms. Burkhart, I can answer that question for you. So if the applicant would like to propose an ADU in that flex space area, then basically they would need to submit a building permit application. The way that I understand the new ADU ordinance is that areas like that flex space to be enclosed would not require single family design board review. However, the ordinance did change what is under the purview of SFDB and what is not. So it is recommended if an ADU is proposed that the applicant submit a pre-application consultation to get an idea of all of the potential approvals that are needed. I believe that in this case, ADU would not require SFDB review, but we would need to see plans showing it in order to officially make that determination.
Okay, thank you. The reason I was asking that question is perhaps not this owner, but maybe a future owner. If we approve this with the lower FAR, that flex space is open to the ADU issue that you just answered, but it's also open to a future fulfillment or completion that would push it back up to the 95%. If we approve this project in our process for a 70% FAR, would that FAR issue have to come back to, setting aside the whole ADU question, would that future FAR have to come back to the single family design board for the determination that a 95% FAR was acceptable for this home, even with a different owner in the future? And I assume that's a question to Ms. Burkhart or Mr. Hamilton.
Board Member Sweeney, to the board members, yes, I can answer that as well. The project would have to return to single family design board for review of the increased floor area and the potential 95% guideline FAR.
Okay, thank you. Then, Mr. Wolf, I just want to go to a couple of scale issues. Could we go to, I think it's your south elevation, either the rendering or the actual elevation? Again, if I had a scale and I could sit at the table, I'd probably answer my own question, but I can't do that. The large windows on the right-hand side, how high are they from? They look like they're right at the floor line. How high is that opening?
The one on the right side is, it is a 10-foot high window. So it's transom and fixed panel below is a total of 10 feet.
And so the transoms on the top, are they operable or just the transom?
I think they will be. I tend to lean that direction just sort of for passive reasons,
Okay.
So yeah, I would say that that's probably the case.
Okay, so then following up on that, I'm passive. Are you assuming that this home would be air conditioned or no?
You know, I don't know if we've gotten into that yet. I think that it's possible that it would be air conditioning only because up in that area, I think it can get hot during the summer, a few days.
There's a 10, usually up there, there's a 10 degree differential between there and downtown.
Yeah.
And then one final question, assuming I'm almost sure this is high fire, the underside of those eaves and roof overhangs will be stucco or some other material?
I would push for a wood finish material up there, whether it's a painted, and we could either use a hardy or we could use a wood like a treated wood. We've got a success story about a product that we found. But I don't think we would do the stucco. I think it would look better and a little lighter if it was a wood material or have a texture to it. In other words, not stucco.
Right, so for both the fascia and the underside of the solid.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. Thank you. My questions.
Thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any questions, please?
I just had a minor question. How long is the driveway from the street?
Oh, well, let's see here. Again, it's existing, so, but.
And you're not doing anything to it?
Not really. We are changing a little bit down by where the car enters into the garage, but it's currently an asphalt material. Let's see how long that is. Going to my drawing so I can check for you. It looks like, well, the property line there is 113 feet on that inside leg. So the whole driveway length from street is probably 150 feet. Okay. And again, it drops down. So we're probably 20 feet from the elevation of the street. Actually, I take that back. It's 250 feet from the garage face of the door to the edge of the paving. 250 feet.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Fire department.
All right, thank you. I actually have no questions at this time, so I'm going to move it into comments. Board Member Calais, do you have any comments, please? Gotta push the button.
I was just saying, no, I think I inadvertently provided my comments earlier. So I'll just kind of recapitulate those, which was the question about the roofing color. And I think it would be helpful if the percentage of slope was shown on the roof plan so that it was clear that those are in fact raked roofs or flat roofs. And again, my comment about maybe clarifying the relationship of the boulder to the house and trying to integrate that to a greater degree if at all possible. I did have a question for staff, Mr. Miller. I don't know if now's the time to ask that.
Go ahead, sure.
I'm trying to get my sea legs on in terms of the ADU ordinance, and it seems to be kind of a moving target. So if the flex space, the question to staff is if the flex space were to be later proposed as an ADU, is that permissible within the high fire zone that this home sits in? Or is it because it's within the existing extents of the home and it would be considered effectively a conversion that would be permissible? I guess I'm just asking that question.
Board Member Colas and Mr. Chair, that question would be best answered with a formal set of plans showing the proposed ADU and all the details. It's hard to say just looking at it, you know, in this particular meeting to make a determination. In the high fire zone, however, there is the potential to do a junior ADU as long as the ADU, you know, meets the size requirements. But again, that's why I was suggesting just going for the pre-application review of the accessory dwelling unit. That would allow staff to more formally review the plans under the new set of regulations.
Okay, thank you. So I have no further comments.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, positive comments. I really liked the plant palette of how you mixed the native, which fits with all the oaks, and then also the agaves and succulents with it being high fire. My comment would be the penstemon, maybe remove that from the plant palette because it can tend to be high fire and invasive. That's my only comment on the plants. I really like the natural retention and how everything fits into the slope. That was really well done. And I would support any interaction or seating with the boulder area. I think that it is a really nice feature. So any way you want to highlight that more, sounds good to me. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to more details and material selection.
Thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have comments, please?
Yes, I really like the design. I think it fits our criteria very well. Haven't seen the houses around it, but we don't have a comment yet from neighborhoods. So maybe in the future, when you come back to us and present this a little bit more with a little bit more detail. I have, Mr. Chairman, may I ask one last question within this comment point?
Of course.
I'm looking at this elevation right now and quote the lanai area, which is underneath which is the first floor just to the south of the entry. Part of that is open, part of it is closed. Is that true? Am I saying the right thing, that lanai area?
No, actually, Joe, the area under the bedroom wing there is open.
So I'm looking at the north retaining wall under that first floor there, underneath the bedroom. So that's,
yes.
In other words, that's all open underneath there. That's a big area that's wide open, correct?
That's correct. It's open all the way back to the back wall that is the retaining wall.
Very good. Okay, that's all my comments and questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Questions?
I'll wait till your next presentation to come up with a lot of questions.
I hope not.
Okay then. Be forewarned, Bill.
Okay, I hope I can answer those, Joe, for you.
Board Member Sweeney, do you have any comments, please?
Yes. First of all, to the architecture, to the context of the neighborhood, I think we can find the finding that it will be within the context of the neighborhood, given that the other surrounding houses have Spanish style roofs. They're 3 and 12 pitches, 4 and 12 pitches. Most of them were built as French style, and they're being converted slowly. As you recall, we have a horse ranch just 2 properties to the west, et cetera. So I think the general approach is appropriate. I know it's a cost item, but I would encourage you to think about more of a Farnsworth House approach between those cantilevered flat roofs and the top of the windows. You know, where the glass really does touch the bottom. So either lowering those windows down at those elements would look, I think, more appropriate to where you're headed with the style of the architectural language you're introducing. So that would be a comment there. My other, the rock. Certainly a Zen garden is appropriate, where one could sit and contemplate looking at the rock. So look forward to seeing what comes next. But in general, my biggest comment has to do with the flex space. I think that we as a board should be approving this for the higher FAR in our comments, so that moving forward, that FAR goes to the house, not to the property owner, because it's part of the approval. The reasoning behind that is I don't quite always trust the future. A future property owner could go in and finish this thing without a permit, because it's very easy to fill in that flex space. They just got to close up the front facade or the south facade and a little bit of the other facade, and they're done. And that can be, my years in the board, I've seen a lot of things happen where things get done without permits, and unless it's turned in by a neighbor, it just lives on and on. So I think to make things clear is for us to give it approval with a higher FAR. And I don't, I'm given the size of the lot, I don't have a big issue with the 95% in this particular case, given the fact that the lot is, what, 1.5 acres or 2 acres. So I don't think that's the issue. If the flex space were outside this footprint or being dealt with differently, then I might think about it differently. But this is just too easy to cheat in the future. And so we ought to tie it in now with a higher percentage. That's a way to no ADUs not get counted in an FAR. Junior ADUs the same way. We've had a home that we approved in another portion of the city where the ADU was buried inside the house and we couldn't count it for the FAR. This is kind of a similar condition. So I would encourage us to improve it with a larger ADU and be done with it. Those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any comments, please?
Yeah, just to say that I really like the design of this house and it really fits in, and just to vote for approval, but that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, my comments are, these are probably more of a subjective comment, but when I first joined, we had this great book, and one of the things it says here about this is, now I just lost it. Consistency in appearance, the proposed development will be consistent with the scenic character of the city. I think the design of the house is beautiful. I think the size, bulk, and scale is appropriate, but I'm a little hung up about the style of the house, of the unique qualities of this area. I would feel this style of house you would see at any hill in Malibu or San Clemente or Manhattan Beach, but I think Santa Barbara, one of the specialties of this area is that it has that Santa Barbara look. And I'd invite the architect to see if you could incorporate something like that, like stone. I know that's an expensive building material, but I'd love to see you do something with this style of home that kind of incorporates the Spanish Mediterranean. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what that would mean, but I'd invite you to just sort of kind of, have fun with that, and just sort of give it a Santa Barbara tweak to it. And I think that's probably my only comment on that. So with that, is there anyone else have any questions or comments? With that, with hearing none, would someone like to please draft a motion for comments only? All right, I'm going to invite Fred.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for staff before we make the motion. This has no requirements for modifications or any other particular essence. So the motion should be comments or whether or not we're prepared to consider project design approval at its next appearance. Is that correct?
Yeah, and speaking of which, also include the fact that whether we're going to do with a larger or smaller FAR.
Yes, both are correct, Chair Miller and Board Member Sweeney.
Okay, thank you. Then I would move the following comments.
Thank you.
That the board appreciates the general approach to the style of architecture for the home, and that would be in a position for project design approval to meet the findings for neighborhood compatibility. The board would encourage some consideration to have the architecture engage the stone of the site to be a little more reflective of the essence of the Santa Barbara hillside areas. That the board will approve this project, or should approve this project, or excuse me, not should or would, anticipates, Mary, anticipates approving this project with the proposed 95% floor to lot area ratio, which includes the square footage of the flex space that's identified as the 4,747 square foot size of home. That the board encourages further consideration to the development of the landscaping around the large specimen rock at the southeast corner of the home. That the board will have a better understanding on return about the exterior landscape lighting, if such exists, particularly at the front gate, and any front gate address identification, and also clarification on the road paving, including the area up in front of the garage and the new proposed additional on-site parking area. So that would be my motion.
All right, thank you. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Well, Joe, you got to push your button.
I know, I pushed it. Jonathan beat me. Jonathan beat me.
Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes, this is Mary. I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. We have Chair Miller,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Colas,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Welch. Moving on to item number 2. This is a continued item for concept review. Address is 1236 West Mitchell Terrena Street. Proposal to abate violations of ENF 2018-00963, including permitting an as-built sunroom, garage door, kitchen bay window, and interior alterations. Project includes demolition of an as-built gas fireplace, removal of as-built exterior stairs at the north and west sides of the residence, removal of a deck at the second floor, and removal of an as-built skylight at the second floor den. Project also includes a 255 square foot second floor bedroom addition and a 78 square foot first floor addition to the kitchen area. Project requires staff hearing officer review of a zoning modification to allow the as-built sunroom to encroach into the northern interior setback. Project site is located on a 14,116 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District with an average slope of 70%. The proposal of, let's see, proposal total of 1,936 square feet of development is 46% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. No final appealable action will be taken at this hearing. Project requires neighborhood preservation findings in Hillside Design District and slope lot findings. The project was continued by the staff hearing officer on December 16th, 2020. Project was last reviewed on October 26, 2020. Do we have any minutes on this project or Mr. Sweeney to?
Chair Miller and board members, we do have the minutes available here, and I will have just some brief comments to help guide your review.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I can go ahead with that when you're ready.
Okay. Well, Mr. Sweeney, how would you like to do this? Do you want to read
Well,
the motion?
I think the appropriate, because this is being sent back from the staff hearing officer, I think
Yes.
the appropriate thing to do, Mr. Chair, is to have Mr. Hamilton brief us first, and then before the applicant's presentation, then I can just read into the record what our comments from the last hearing was.
All right. Thank you. So, Mr. Hamilton, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. So this is the second time you will have seen this project for SFDB concept review. Last one was October 26th, 2020. And then following that concept review hearing, the project was continued to the staff hearing officer. The staff hearing officer continued the item and requested that the item return to SFDB for additional comments regarding specific items, which I'll get into. And then since that hearing, the applicant has also revised the plans to eliminate the proposed deck extension and demolish the existing upper story deck at the rear of the residence. So today, if you could please focus your review in particular on the privacy guidelines, which are attachment 3 in the attached report. And if you could, in your motion, make comments similar to those that are also outlined in the report, in particular, noting whether or not the proposed modification is aesthetically appropriate and whether or not the proposed modification poses consistency issues with the single family residence design guidelines. And in addition, I wanted to let you know that I did review the plans with a plans examiner who did indicate that the as-built addition could be built in its current location, provided that it meets fire code. So I just wanted to let you know that because I know that was a question at the last hearing. And if you have any questions about the mod approval process, please let me know. Thanks.
All right,
And
thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and read our comments from our last meeting. We
Thank you.
had a motion to continue indefinitely to the staff hearing officer with the following comments. 1, the aesthetics of the proposal are appreciated. 2, the board is supportive of the modification but has concerns and more research is required. 3, the applicant's discussion of the project with neighbors is appreciated. 4, the flow of the entry and the overall aesthetic of the project is acceptable. The motion was approved on a motion by Ms. James with a second by Mr. Motisha. Sweeney opposed and Farrell was absent, but the motion carried.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Sweeney. Do we have a representative to the project, please?
And Mr. Esber, if you're there, go ahead and turn on your webcam and your mic. Thank you.
So quick, just before, I was a little not clear exactly what Ted was saying. I'm making a confession here, but I'm hoping it'll clear up a little more, have a better understanding, but please go ahead and present your project.
Hello, board members. This is Gibran Esper again. We're here to, we're advised by the staff hearing officer to meet with you to discuss the good neighbor guidelines. I'm going to let my wife, Constance, start first since she's the Speaker of the House. And I will answer any comments regarding design and aesthetic comments.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm on Zoom all day long, so I think that's why he was more comfortable passing this to me. He's much more comfortable face-to-face, so if we're ever in a face-to-face situation, he'll be the one talking. A quick recap of the project. Ted, if you wouldn't mind, whoever is navigating to, could we go to page 2 of the photos packet? I think that might be helpful just so we can get a perspective of what our current home looks like. It is located near the end of West Mitchell Trina. It's on the west side. The house was built in 1967. The portion that you can see in the big picture there is the original part. It was the garage with the first floor living and then a bedroom above. And then in 1983, a second bedroom or a den was added to the back part of the house with a bedroom. And this made the house just under 1,100 square feet. In late 2018, we purchased the home and at that time discovered through a ZERA report that there were several violations. Clearly the one that has us giving us the biggest problem is this sunroom, as it was noted in the ZERA report. You can see sort of on that bottom right photo at the very end of the entrance stairs, the sunroom that's in question. So you can kind of see right there. So it's just that little portion right there that extends into the neighbor's setback. It's a 6 by 9 foot room, so 54 square feet. It was built at the end of this angled breezeway that was created when the second bedroom was added. And the bedroom was actually added over the retaining wall that runs between, say, 5 and 9 feet behind the house. So it kind of created this space behind the main house under the bedroom. We don't know when this room was built. We do know that the breezeway path has been there probably since the beginning when the house was built, but we have no idea when this was built. We do know that it was some point after 1983. The removal of this sunroom does present a little bit of a challenge in that it's going to expose the concrete retaining wall. So not necessarily ideal in that situation either. And then just as a reminder, the extreme slope drops to the neighbor's property. And if you could move to page 13, I think it shows it a little bit better. Yeah, right there. So you can kind of see this sunroom and then that big grassy area that drops to our neighbor's property, and then their driveway sits, and then their house. So from one point to the other point, it's over 31 feet between our two properties. Okay. So that's a current view of where we're at. Now I'm going to get into our proposal. So I think one of you in our last meeting put it quite well, called it a freshening up of what the home is. And our goal was really to make both the interior floor plan function better, as well as the exterior design, keeping with the original design intent, but making it much more aesthetically pleasing. So now if we could move to the plans on page 8, it's sheet A12, and go to, I believe it's detail 2. It's the one in the upper right. So here is this would be the second story, where our proposal is to add that second bedroom back there in the back, as well as somewhat relocating one of the bathrooms and then enlarging the master bathroom. And then also one of the violations is the washer and dryer in the garage that will move up into this location up here on this upper floor. And if we could go to detail 1 there to the left, we'll look at the first floor plan. So this is the first floor plan, and the most important proposal that we're making is moving the main entrance, which currently exists on the right side of the property, to the left side there of the property. This will give us and our neighbors privacy, of course. It'll reduce the traffic between our homes. And you can see now how the sunroom back there is now connected into the space of the home, creating sort of a study office area, if you will. It's roughly about 100 square feet. In addition, as it was noted in the opening comments, the kitchen expands into that back area. And then there is a half bath in the space right now. It actually exists almost right in the middle of the room, and that will move into the back corner there. So all in all, this proposal takes the home from 1,046 square feet to 1,545. So still quite modest and still quite fitting within the neighborhood. So now let's move to page 13, if you would. It's sheet A17. Yeah, okay. Okay. So this is our elevations here. You can see from the one that is highlighting here, the one on the upper left would be the front of the house. So again, moving the front door basically that faces the neighbors to now street facing and kind of building into a portion of this space between the retaining wall and the house, expanding out and creating that space. And you had a lot of positive comments about the design of this house and this refresh. It is our home, and we put a lot of thought into its functional design, as well as the aesthetics. So we want to really thank you a lot for your positive feedback. And then finally, I want to get into the details of why we're here today, and that is that sunroom. So as it was stated, we did meet with Susan Reardon, the staff hearing officer, on December 16th, and she requested that you have further discussion on how this project relates to the Good Neighbor Guidelines. So in keeping with that, I'm going to list why we believe this proposal does. So about visual distance, we're relocating the main entrance. I think that's a huge, huge piece from the right side there to the left side. We took entrance activity into account when we came up with this design. It is a costly move, but one that does create more privacy and orient the front door to the street, which we think aesthetically looks good, as well as it provides both a little more privacy for us and our neighbors. One of the other things is the pattern of the building separation in the neighborhood. Is that most of the homes sit pretty close to each other. In fact, many are encroaching within their 5-foot setbacks, meaning many have less than 10 feet between the two properties. In fact, the house directly across the street from us has about 6 feet. And if you could move to, I believe, the elevation to the right. Yeah, right. Yeah, that one would be good. There we had, if you focus on the sunroom right there, kind of in the middle, we did have two windows, the two windows that are showing there with that area. And after meeting and discussing with the plan examiner, within 3 feet of the property line, the only windows that are approved would be the 1-hour glass block. So those have been changed to glass block in that location. And then regarding upper story decks and balconies, what Mr. Hamilton was talking about with regards to the upper level deck. So in that bedroom, the back bedroom that's being added there, that's kind of sits behind the oak tree, that there was a sliding glass door with a deck there. The deck is there, but we have removed that completely, even though that live oak does completely obstruct any view. We completely took that out. And then lastly, the decking that kind of sits in front of the sunroom would remain. That is the landing right now for the entrance to the house. It helps to kind of break that stance. It kind of helps with some of the aesthetics and the railing and those kinds of things. It also provides some ventilation to that room. Now with just the glass block, there will be no ventilation at all. As well as it does provide an additional fire exit in that space. So, and then lastly, with regards to the Good Neighbor, our goal, even without knowing about the Good Neighbor Guidelines, our goal is to be a good neighbor. I mean, that's why we moved into a neighborhood, and that's why we don't live out in the country somewhere. And we've met with our neighbors who live on this north side quite often, where this room is located, Paul Hartloff and Mary Hobson. We've shared the project with them, and we've received their comments. And I really want to call them out here because they have spent their valuable time not only reviewing the plans with us, but writing a letter in support of this project. They've listened in on all the meetings. They even, Paul even shared public comments in the staff hearing meeting on December 16th, again, all in support of this sunroom and our project design. So while any property is buildable, one does have to take into account, you know, the current structure that you're dealing with, the current retaining walls that are erected, the slope of the land, the impact changing that slope would be, and kind of the overall harmony to the land, as well as the cost, of course. So taking all this into account, we do believe expanding on the site further back or on the southerly side would not be feasible. So in closing, we believe we have combined both the Good Neighbor Guidelines and the proper design aesthetics into this project, and really hope today that we can move a step closer to this proposed project coming to fruition. So thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you very much. Do we have any open comments or emails?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please follow the directions on screen and raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel, which indicates to me that you wish to speak. While we wait for hands, Mary, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thanks, Barbara. We did not receive any written public comment for this item.
Okay, thank you, Mary. We do have one hand raised. I'd like to call on Paul Hartloff. I'm going to unmute you. Okay, I've unmuted you. Let's see. So you have 2 minutes to speak whenever you're ready. Mr. Hartloff, you can go ahead and speak when you're ready. You'll have 2 minutes.
He's not finding the button.
Mr. Hartloff, if you would like to speak on this item, you have 2 minutes. Your mic is live. Chair Miller, I'm not getting a response. I think we can move on, and I'll come back to it if the hand goes back up.
Okay, no problem. So moving it back to the board. So we'll go down for questions. So board member Colas, do you have any questions, please? And I apologize, can you say your last name again so I can pronounce it right?
It's pronounced Colas. It's
Thank you,
French.
Colas.
Many people think it's Italian. They pronounce the E, but the E is silent.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Yes.
Our speaker is back online. I'm going to try again.
Okay, let's cross our fingers.
Okay, I'd like to call on you, Mr. Hartloff. I just unmuted you. You have 2 minutes to speak whenever you're ready.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello? Yay, okay, sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Hi, this is Paul Hartloff and Mary Hobson, and just wanted to reiterate what we've said before in terms of working with Connie and Gibran. We appreciate everything they've shared with us, and their design is, we very much appreciate what they've done and the direction they're going with it. And we do understand in a neighborhood such as this, it's kind of like, there's no doubt you're in a sense kind of on top of each other, but that's the way it is. And so.
Yeah, and we think the design that they have come up with is going to only improve the neighborhood and improve the value of the homes in the neighborhood, and it's absolutely beautiful. We are looking forward to it and hope that you guys move forward with the project. Thank you.
That's all we got. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I? All right, so sorry for the interruption. Board Member Colas, would you like to proceed with your questions?
I don't really have any questions. I did go and do a drive-by this morning, and I originally had some questions about the condensing unit that's on the, I guess that would be maybe the north side or the west side of the home. But I noted that on the drawings that that was previously approved in its current location. I don't really have any further questions. I do have some comments, but I'll hold off until later for those.
All right, thank you very much. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, regarding the AC unit, do you plan to screen it with any planting material? Are you adding any new planting material to the slope?
We are talking to the neighbors. They're gonna have a landscape company coming in to add some plants, and we propose to them that we are willing to help and add anything that will kind of aesthetically looks good and will cover everything that doesn't look aesthetically appealing.
Yeah, and I think the important thing here really to note is that the hill, while there is a property line in the hill, we both share it. And so we want to work together with them. So we don't have any specific plans right now. The house, the hill goes up. And so most of the time, our house sits in the shade. So it does present a few additional challenges on this hill with trying to grow anything, of any sort of size. But we will work with them closely.
Great. And my other question is, and there's no removals of existing trees at all? Everything is staying? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, could we look at the floor plan again? I'm just curious from the board's point of view where the stairways that go up, how you get from the main level or the garage. The garage, you definitely have to come out. Want to come out of the front of the garage to go up to the house. The garage does not have a level.
Yeah,
But-
there's no stairs from the garage into the house. You'd have to go outside.
And then you have I never really kind of figured out how you got from the living room and kitchen area or dining room, kitchen, living room to the 2 upper story bedrooms. Second.
Right north of actually on the west side of that, exactly.
And that's existing. That's there now.
Oh, west side, north. Okay, west. All right. Okay, got it. You move 1 degree, and all of a sudden, north is in a different direction in town.
Yes.
Okay, so the stairway goes up between the room and the new study. Got you. Okay, and that goes up. Oh, there's a bedroom in front. Okay. Now you have the bedrooms in the back are on the same. Are they on
They're
the
all
same?
On the same level.
same level.
All bedrooms are on the same level.
Yes.
And then what do you have? A clear story? That tall area in the middle of the house on the roof is a clear story for the den or for the stairway?
It's for the den.
The den. Okay.
And it exists now. It's just the angled. And so as we shared in the last meeting, we squared that off. It just fits with the design of the house better.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you. I don't have any more questions, and I have, thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Sweeney, do you have any questions, please?
Yeah, if we can stay on these plans. So you access the study via the kitchen from inside the house. You're proposing to keep a door or add a door out onto that balcony that goes outside the study, as I read the plans. And then there appears to be a window that's being closed up. Best I can tell by looking at the elevations in the plan, that's just above the dining table on the north side wall, correct?
That's actually the
That's a
current front
door.
door. That's the current entrance, the current front
Right,
door.
So you're closing that up?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so the balcony is in the footprint of the current landing that's there, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
That's off that door to the study. Okay. And then the sunroom that's there now has been attached to that area where you're now going to just make it all one big study, correct? Am I
Correct.
understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Yes.
And that on the plans that are opening, that show openings on the north side are those 1 hour block
Yes.
glazed openings, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that at the other corner next to the door, that's a solid wall. And is that solid wall existing?
Yes, that's a solid wall, and actually that's the main retaining wall that goes all the way to the northwest corner of that sunroom.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the wall that's in alignment with the door D, I guess if I'm reading that correctly. Where
Yes.
it's 3 foot 2 inches, that's a solid wall, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I think that answers my, the other question I had, and this is to staff. I didn't take the time this week to check, but is it my understanding that the staff hearing officer meetings are not recorded? Is that correct?
Board Member Sweeney and Mr. Chair, the staff hearing officer meetings are indeed recorded, and they're available at the staff hearing officer website, which is a page on the SantaBarbaraCA.gov website.
Okay, so had I accessed that this week, I would have been able to get a little further explanation of the reasoning behind the staff hearing officer's decision to send it back to us. And am I also understanding that she denied the request or just said, no, go back and have a further conversation? Am I reading that right?
Board Member Sweeney, the original motion was for denial, and then that motion was rescinded, and a new motion was made to send it back to SFDB for additional comments on specifically how this project does or doesn't meet the Good Neighbor guidelines.
And so our decision today would send it back to the staff hearing officer?
That's correct. And in fact, it is scheduled for the February 10th hearing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Those are my questions.
All right, thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any questions, please?
I had a question. When you made your presentation, you talked about you added another fire door exit to the house on the 3rd floor, I think. Can you show me where that is? Or did I misunderstand what you said?
Yeah, I think it's actually on the 2nd floor. What I was referring to for the first, the other one. It's the first living floor because the garage is considered the
It's
first
on
floor. So
the other one.
what I was really talking about was that room, the study, having a door. Like there's for the back side of that house, a way to get out if you needed to.
And is there a stairway from that study?
No, there is not.
Take a flying leap once fire is going.
That's pretty much what it is, huh? Okay.
Well, it opens out to a deck, that's all, right? There's just a little private deck.
Exactly.
Since we were advised to put the glass block, and we can't get out of them, so we had to have the fire rated or the exit door on that room.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Moving on to, I have no questions. You guys were pretty good about all your questions and pretty satisfied with any questions I had. So moving it back to comments. Board Member Kolas, do you have any comments, please?
I appreciate what the applicants are trying to do. I think you guys are really trying to clean this house up, and I think that's great. And I think it's great that you guys are working with your neighbors so closely. The project presents a little bit of a dilemma from my standpoint, just because when we start getting into issues of approving things on property lines that aren't respecting setbacks, we start down a slippery slope from a board standpoint. So I have some misgivings about supporting the modification to allow this space in its entirety to remain. I would be more inclined to support the modification if an effort was made to pull back some of the square footage from the property line, maybe split the difference where you're at least 3 feet off the property line. I think that in some ways that bump out helps the massing on the house from your neighbor's perspective. In other ways, I think this house is a very simple vertical element. It's a very simple vertical structure. And in some ways, the bump out in the study is a little bit of an outlier. So those would be my comments. I'll leave it up to the rest of the members to chime in terms of their opinions on that.
Well, thank you. And trust me, that was a heated conversation the last time they were at the meeting. So you bring up some very valid points. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I would recommend additional shrubs to screen the AC unit and continue to work with your neighbors to select something that you both like. And it would also, I think, soften the slope and that addition as well.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Motisha, any comments, please?
Yes, I kind of agree with Leslie on your comments about the bump, about the sunroom and how it sits out there. But I know a lot of people that live on that street. I've done a lot of remodeling on Upper Mitchell Terrena, different houses there, across the street, down the street. Know several people that live there, Kurt. And somebody commented earlier that a lot of the houses are only 5 and 6 feet apart because they've all encroached into the side yards. I think you've done a great job of like somebody commented, cleaning up this house. And because I don't want the board to set a precedent, but because the house is quite a ways from the house to the north and down the hill, that it is a lot farther away than most houses in that neighborhood. A lot farther away than most houses in the neighborhood, you know. And I tend to agree with the aesthetic and what that bump out does for that side of the house. I'd hate to see a house where that house sits and how close it does to the road, have a north elevation that's just one sheer wall. It would look very, very different. I like the aesthetic of it, and I intend to support it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board
Mr.
Member,
Miller?
yes.
Could I just make one comment too, in regards to that? The house sits right as the street is starting to make a curve. So actually, when you're coming up the road, what you see, and probably why the main entrance is on that northerly side, that's kind of what you see when you first see the house, is this side. You do not.
Yeah, that photograph, there's that one photograph that has a really good view, I think, might help. Showing that you in that neighbor's house.
It might be page 6, perhaps.
The northeast elevation.
On the main.
There you go.
Page 6.
Page 6. So when you're coming up the street, this is exactly what you see. And like I said, my guess is the original design had the front door there because that's what you saw.
Okay, Board Member Sweeney, any comments, please?
Yes, could we go back to that second floor plan or the first living area floor plan, please?
Sheet 8.
He's good.
Sheet 8, probably this one.
Yes, thank you. So I'm leaning with my colleague, Ms. Callas, about Colas. I'm going to learn to say it correctly.
I'll train you guys eventually.
Yeah, I know. It was poor in French. I tend to kind of agree with your, we're setting a precedent. We don't know in the future if the house below these folks will get added to. Yes, it's very steep, et cetera, but we've seen people come in and do some extraordinary pieces of engineering, and they can go up to their 6-foot setback point, and then we've got a house right on the property line and then 6 feet away from another future addition to the house below. So, we have to think about that. That's why they have setbacks and that's why they have zoning. So I'd be more inclined to approve a project that came back at least 1.5 feet, if not 2 feet from the property line. That would afford them the ability to have a window there rather than glass block. I would not approve retaining the balcony at all. That as a fire escape doesn't really work for me. If the study becomes a sleeping quarters, then you have to have a window that's, I think it reaches by the floor. I would put that wall back, as I said, 1.5 feet to 2 feet east, the wall running east-west on this plan, and then create a set of corner windows, essentially a window that's the width of the door that's shown on the plan now, and perhaps another window on the north elevation that's in that corner, so that whatever little daylight this house gets during the day, it comes in that corner. At this time of year, it's coming early in the morning. And as the owner explained, most of the year it's in the shade. And eliminate the deck, that whole deck out there, take the deck off. I don't know if you want to retain the overhangs, the cantilevered overhang now or not, but I think that would be a better approach. It doesn't fall into the realm of allowing a property to build right onto the property line. And I think proportionately, as you drive up, as others have pointed out, having this little appendage out there certainly adds to that elevation rather than one big flat north face. But right now it's still proportionally a little awkward. So I think moving it back 1.5 feet or 2 feet would give it a much fairer proportion, and then allow the a set of glass windows in the corner to provide better light into the study. That would be my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any comments, please?
I agree with Mr. Sweeney and about those windows in the study, but I also think they've done an awful lot with very little and really need major progress. So I'm inclined to vote for it the way it is, but I think some of Mr. Sweeney's suggested improvements probably resonate and should be considered. That's my comment.
Thank you. So yeah, Board Member Sweeney, excellent comments, and I tend to say what Mr. Ziegler said. I do have, there's several projects I've done in downtown in the really old neighborhoods where you have those single car garages, that are detached from these houses that were built in the 20s and 30s and earlier, where they build the house garage right on the property line, and we, let them through like existing non-conforming. So as far as the edge of the house being on the property line, that does not concern me either. However, I think Fred's suggestions are very good as well. So that's a very non-committal comment. But
Can
anyway,
I ask
sure, go ahead.
a question? So we actually thought of some of that. The challenge that was presented in moving this room is that it exposes that retaining wall. And then it sort of becomes this thing that's stuck out. So, it's almost like we either take it there all the way so you don't see the retaining wall, or you move it all the way back and you just see the whole thing.
And the reason I'm keeping that room is just to not expose the retaining wall. And I believe the previous owner probably did it to not see that retaining wall sticking out on the hill. So this way right now, you don't know it's there. Nobody knows except by looking at the plan.
May I ask a question? Perhaps I'm not understanding what happens above this, but if you were to eradicate the portion that's in the setback and let's say have the east-west running, the primary wall of the house running through, you would definitely reduce the size of the study. But if you kept that retaining wall in place, could you not use that area as an outdoor patio area where you would have a door out to that area? I understand it would be a rather dark area on the north side, but it seems like it could be an on-grade patio condition that would allow you an egressable door or window outside.
But again, we try to follow the guidelines of the good neighbors. And actually right now there's 2 big windows there. Even if you stand there, you can't see out down the neighbor, or they can't see you. But we respected the comments and we took the windows out. We put block windows to give a privacy to the neighbor.
Okay, that addresses why you haven't done that. Thank you.
Can we go back to that photograph again, originally? Yeah.
Page 6.
You want page 6 maybe?
Yeah, page 6. So you can see right now the room has already windows, but by standing way down, you can't see inside the room. And if you put a piece of furniture by the window, you can't even see down. But the glass block will eliminate all that and make everybody happy. I even suggested to have fire-rated windows, the same shape as the black glass block, and they would be up high. You won't see anything from the bottom, or you don't see anything from the top, but it will match all the windows in the house.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your feedback. I'm, looking at this photograph and listening to the different comments, my comment would be that, and I think of what Mr. Motisha said about having it pop out and it kind of breaks up that large mass of rolling. I'm of the opinion just to leave it alone. So that would be my comment. And just to do what you were, put the glass block in.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So with that being said, they're here for, I guess, comments only. Would someone like to make a motion, please?
And Mr. Chair and the board members, if it would be helpful, attachment 3 of the staff memo that was issued, does provide some pretty good information about the specific language that is requested here and the specific findings. And Mr. Bolton, I believe it's at the end, yeah. So in your motion, if you could specifically address number 36 here, the privacy guidelines, part of the good neighbor guidelines taken from the single family residence design guidelines. It's a lot of guidelines, but if you could please incorporate specific language on how the project does or doesn't meet these items here, that would greatly assist the staff hearing officer. Thank you.
All right. So who would like to draft a motion? And before we draft a motion, I'm kind of the opinion we have two divergent approaches to this. So I'm not sure if we should do a straw vote first, or should we just go ahead and draft a motion?
If, Mr. Chair, if I may, procedurally, we can make a motion, anyone can make a motion, and yes, we have probably two divergent opinions about how to approach this. You can make a motion. If the motion receives no second, then the motion dies.
Okay.
If the motion receives a second and after discussion the motion fails, then another party can make a different motion that may be the opposite of the first motion. See what I'm getting at?
Yes,
so I'm going to, hearing no one else come forward, I'm going to make a motion to the side that says that we would like the applicant to return before returning to the staff hearing officer with the following comments. That the study area as identified on floor level 2, I believe that's the appropriate title. First floor, is shown on detail 1A1.2, that the applicant return with a floor configuration that shows the east-west or north-facing wall back in alignment with the existing cantilevered cover, and that the applicant explore the insertion of 2 vertical windows on the east-facing point of that north bump out of the study, and a vertical window at the corner that would face the north elevation. That the existing cantilever deck be eliminated in accordance with our guideline 36.2.4 of attachment 3 of the privacy guidelines, where we do not, according to that guideline, normally do not approve a deck within 15 feet of an interior property line. That the board's consideration of corner windows at the study, given the configuration of the home in relationship to the turning corner of the street, of Mitchell-Traina Street, is appropriate, and that it does not produce additional privacy views between the 2 properties, and that the applicant consider whether they should retain the existing covered cantilevered eyebrow on the north face, and that it might consider that eyebrow fascia be extended to include the roof area of the study, so that it appears as one longer element on that north face. The board has reviewed the other changes being proposed to the home as delineated on these plans, and find that they are compatible with the neighborhood, and would intend to add those to a project design approval at the appropriate meeting. But so the motion is for the project to return after these studies to the full board before going back to the staff hearing officer. That's my motion.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, this is Mary. I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. We have Chair Miller,
No.
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Colas,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
No.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, so the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Moving on to item number 3. 34 East Pedregosa. This is a continued item for concept review. Proposal for a second floor deck with exterior stairway attached to a proposed accessory dwelling unit. Staff hearing officer review of a zoning modification is required to allow a portion of the proposed deck and stairway to encroach into the required interior setback. No final appealable action will take place at this hearing. Project requires neighborhood preservation findings. Project was last reviewed by SFDB on consent December 14th, 2020, and referred to the full board. Hello, Mr. Oshner.
Good evening.
Chair Miller,
Yes.
could I interject and just offer a few staff comments?
Please.
Okay, so the project is here for comments only. Prior to a staff hearing officer consideration of a modification to allow a proposed stairway and a portion of the deck to increase in the interior setback. The stairway and deck would serve a proposed ADU. As you know, the ADU is not within your purview. However, the stairway and deck exceed the dimensions required for ingress and egress and are therefore subject to SFDB purview. So in your motion, we would appreciate if you could please make comments addressing the same section of the design guidelines, the single family residence design guidelines as item before, the previous item. So please focus your review on privacy issues and the project's consistency with the privacy guidelines. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Oshner, if you'd like to present your project.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Tom Oxner, project architect. And so we were here back in December, and we were recommended to go to full board. Staff had originally put the deck and the stairs on consent. Our deck, maybe we should move to this next page, the site plan. And we can take a look then, or maybe it's a few down. Perfect. So if we could zoom in on the existing site plan, I think that would be great. So, so I should probably back up. So the existing conditions here are a one-story, single-story residence on a corner lot. And we've got an existing single-story accessory structure that was legally converted into an accessory structure from a garage back in the 60s. And so the scope of the project is to put an ADU of about 430 square feet on top of that existing accessory structure, which is not a habitable accessory structure. And then that ADU would be accessed from stairs, and as you go up the stairs, you would land on an upper level deck that would then provide access into the ADU. So the deck, after going back and forth with staff, they thought that 11 feet from that easterly property line was supportable to them. And that's why they put it on consent, and then your consent moved it to full board. There is an existing hedge of 12 feet that is about as high as you can go and requires a minor staff mod along with our our mod that you're looking at here. The mod that you're looking at here is for the stairs and the size of the deck, of course. And I'm going to walk you through the photos of that hedge. We also met with the neighbor to the east, and they're fine with the location and the height of that deck. This, as you'll see, this second story above this accessory structure is it's below the street, so it sits down low, so that this second story deck that we're talking about is really only 5 feet above the level of the existing house, and that puts that 12-foot hedge a good 4 feet above that deck. So there's some inherent privacy that is there. So maybe we can move to some of the photos. I think that might help understand. So I think a good one here might be, well, if we look through, we can just kind of go through them. There's a corner lot, so we can see we've got, I actually worked on this residence several years back and remodeled and added a little bit onto the front bedroom. The house is only 1,700 square feet. It's about 63% of the FAR. And then I think we can, if we look at the bottom center here, we can see those gates would normally be going into, you know, that garage back there. There's a driveway. It's called the driveway on the plans. The owner uses it as the driveway, but it's really doesn't. It's in the front yard setback. It doesn't serve a garage, so technically it's not a driveway, but it does allow for a vehicle to pull off the street. So that has value. I think on the lower right, you can see on top center, you can also see that 12-foot hedge as it wraps around. Now, keep in mind, behind those entry gates, the driveway slopes down about 3 feet or so. And then the house to the right, you can see the house actually sits up about 3.5 feet above that driveway. So if we go to inside that gate, so if we open up that gate and we look inside, I think we've got some photos that show a good shot of what we're dealing with here. You know, there was a supplemental photo. Yeah, this is a good one here. Thank you. So this gives you an idea. You can see there's that existing accessory structure. So the ADU, as it sits on top of that, will be about 5 feet above the finished floor of the main house, which you see off to the right there with the steps that go up to it. So, and then you've got that hedge to the left. I think that really gives a good indication of the setting. Maybe we can move now to the elevations, and we can look at the north elevation, which I think is a good one to go to after that slide. So if we zoom in on, yeah, that's perfect. So we zoom in on that north elevation. So this, from that photo, you can see we've got the existing main residence, and then we've got the accessory structure, existing accessory structure back there with that sliding glass window. And then we've got the stairs that come up, and then they turn to the right, and you land on the deck. And then the hedge is drawn in there to scale at 12 feet. Again, the neighbor's fine with that. And so we, the edge of that deck is not really where you see it right there. We were asked to bring the deck back. There's a line, you see that where it says setback line? The actual usable deck is about 1.5 feet beyond. Yeah, it starts about right there where that cursor is. We've created an opening there to keep congregating people on that deck from getting closer than the 11 feet to the property line. And so that when we go to the floor plan, which we'll go to next, we can see that area has been carved out. And I think that one thing we're still trying to achieve here is the distance. Well, underneath that deck, we've got about 10.5 feet, which still allows for a vehicle to pull up and to make its way between the proposed steps up to the ADU and the existing steps to the back door of the house right there. Let's go take a look at the floor plan, and we can see the 1/4 inch scale. If we zoom in on that to the right there, that floor plan right there. So this what you're seeing there is, and maybe if we pan down so we can also see the property line to the east, I think that would be helpful. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, zoom in right there. That's perfect. Okay, so we've got, what we're looking at here is the ADU, and that's about 5 feet above that, the adjacent house where it says family room there, which is really the existing bedroom, and there's a bathroom off that. So what we've got then is where it says new deck, and then you can see the opening with the open framing members, and the edge of the deck then, as you can see there, is 11 feet from the property line. And the steps are situated, they are 5 feet from the property line as they come up and turn and land up onto that proposed deck. But I think that if I'm probably ready to answer questions, it's a bit of an isolated scope here. So I think that probably wraps up my presentation, and I'm happy to expand on any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Did we get any public comment? Ms. Burkhart?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please follow the instructions on screen and raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel, which indicates to me that you would like to speak. While we wait for hands, Mary, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thank you, Barbara and Chair Miller. We did not receive any written correspondence for this item.
All right, thank you, Mary. And Chair Miller, there are no hands raised, so I'll hand it back to you for questions.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll move down the list. So Board Member Colas, do you have any questions, please?
I have one question for Mr. Oshner. Tom, is there a grade change between this parcel and the parcel that is to, I think, what you're calling the east, the parcel adjacent but on Anacapa Street?
No, the grade, their residence shares the same grade that accessory structure. So this whole property slopes down from the corner of Anacapa and Pedregosa, and then it kind of hits the elevation where our accessory structure is, and it carries that elevation across to the easterly neighboring lot.
Okay, so there is not a retained condition there at the common property line between those two parcels?
No. Good
Okay.
question, no. Yeah.
That's the only question I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
Do you have any new trees that you're proposing to be planted?
No, we don't at this time. We, the project really kind of consists of stacking on top of that existing structure, but we're, we have an open mind to a good idea on that.
Great, that's my only question.
Board Member Motisha, do you have questions? Where'd he go?
I'm here.
There you are.
Couple questions. From this floor plan, we see that that there is access to the ADU from the main house. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The fire rated door right there. So you're coming down, you will come up some steps. Down some steps. You'll come down, no, up some steps.
So you will climb up about 5 feet from the existing house to get to the ADU, yes. So you're going up to get to the ADU from the main house, and then down from the ADU to get.
And you mentioned there's just a window that goes onto that new deck from the main house.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah, you mentioned that the accessory structure, which probably was a garage years ago, was changed with a permit into a accessory structure in the 60s.
I believe it was in the 60s. Yeah, I'm not positive, but I think that rings a bell. Yeah.
What will that become? Will that remain just what it is right now with this ADU put on top of it?
Exactly. Yeah. It just maintains the same status.
Okay. I don't know this is an R1 piece of property?
Gosh, I think it is. It's on the cover sheet. It shows it.
It
I
may
should
not,
know that.
it may not be our place to question this, but I was always under the understanding if you had a house and a unit on that property, that you could not put an ADU on the property. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, and then I may be asking a question that I have no business putting my voice into. But
Is there someone from staff that could address that question? That's a good question.
I thought you had and you had a unit already on that property that you couldn't add a accessory dwelling unit.
It's not a habitable accessory structure.
Habitable, huh? It has it. Does a duck quack if it quacks? Sorry.
And board member Motisha, and to the board members and anyone listening, the accessory dwelling unit would be allowed in this zone. It's the RS15 zone, and currently the way the lot is developed, accessory dwelling units are allowed.
Okay, then I'll drop that question. Thank you. Yeah, that's all my questions. I don't have any other questions right now.
Thank you. Board Member Sweeney, do you have any questions?
The 12-foot hedge between the two properties, and this is a question to Mr. Burkhart or Mr. Hamilton. Does that require at this point any city approval, or is it existing? So that's one question. The second question is, just so I'm clear, our purview is only over the portion of the deck that's in the setback area, or we're supposed to be making a judgment on the deck and the staircase?
Board Member Sweeney, to answer the first question, the hedge that is over 42 inches in height and closer than 10 feet to the front lot line would require a minor zoning exception granted by this board. And unfortunately, we did not notice it in this round of review, but it will need to be renoticed, and it can just return for your consideration at the project design approval hearing. So keep that in mind.
Mr. Hamilton, my question, I thank you for that clarification, but my question was to the 12-foot hedge that separates the two properties, the property that's to the east. Does that require an action by staff or the board?
Oh, Board Member Sweeney, thanks for clarifying. At this juncture, that hedge has not been identified as something that requires an additional approval.
Okay. And then the last question is, just to be clear, what is our purview? Is it the deck or just the staircase and the deck that's in the setback?
And Board Member Sweeney, it would be the second floor deck, since it is above the minimum requirements for for ingress and egress. So you can comment on the upper story deck, and also the second item would be the aesthetic appropriateness of the modification to allow the portion of the deck and the staircase to encroach. So really two items there: the deck, and then just for SFDB purview, and then the modification.
Okay, for the staircase.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any questions, please?
Yeah, having attended the ADU seminar this week, I came up with a question which I wanted to ask at the beginning of this conference, is about where does the Single Family Design Board have any say? I was under the impression that we wouldn't have a say on a unit like this, which is in the back of the property behind the house. And so I'm wondering why we're discussing it.
Board Member Ziegler, I can answer that as well. The unit itself is not in Single Family Design Board purview. But there are certain elements that are under SFDB purview that can be associated with accessory dwelling units, including second floor decks and additional items. And I'd refer you to the new ADU ordinance for specifics on that. And hopefully we can have a small training for this board on the new ordinance shortly here.
Okay, thank you, Ted. That answers my question. I guess there's some things here we can talk about.
Thank you. Yeah, and as usually the politics of the ADUs, once we learn or get a seminar about the new ordinances, they'll be changed. So plan on it. Tom, I just have a question because you came before me for the consent item, and I think what got me nervous was the stairway and the deck out in the driveway like that. Have you reconfigured it since you first presented it?
The stairway? No, I don't believe so. I believe this is the same configuration that we had on that first consent meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have a memory of it sticking way out, and it's not. So, okay. That's my only question. So I'm going to bring it back to the board for comments. Board Member Kolos, do you have any comments, please?
Can I, perhaps the applicant, perhaps Tom, you could explain to me exactly how far, I'm looking at the required setback. It's a 10-foot required setback. Is that right? I'm trying to read that on this plan here. I'm trying to look where the tick marks are, and I'm having a little bit of a problem.
Yes. The standard side yard there is 10 feet, correct.
Okay. So we're just looking for comments on the aesthetic appropriateness of the stairs and the deck, but they're outside of the setback. Is that correct?
Okay, the stairs are in the setback, but the deck is outside the setback, but the deck is closer than
I'm reading, okay, I'm reading the tick
your
mark wrong.
15
I've got
feet
you
that
now.
is, yeah, okay,
Yeah, we're half the required setback. Is that right?
yes.
Okay, thank you. I have no significant comments. I don't, I think there's enough reprieve here from the side yard and with the hedge material that it doesn't create a problem to have the stairs here and the modest amount of, I'll call it trellis work associated with the deck within that 5 feet. It's not visible from the street, probably still will not be visible from the street from a pedestrian, I'm guessing, given the grade difference and the slope on the parcel. I think it's actually, at first I was concerned about how much was going on this parcel, but when I actually drove by it made a lot more sense, and I think it's actually a good little ADU project.
Great, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I would say if you could study maybe putting palm trees on either side of the driveway just to help with that elevation. The site seems to have palm trees throughout the neighborhood. So if the client likes that idea, maybe study that to help.
Is that your only comment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Motisha, any comments, please?
No, I don't have any comments other than the fact that I like how the ADU is incorporated with the existing main house, and I did walk around the house today and look down the driveway, and yes, that deck and that stairway will be hidden from public view because of the slope of the driveway. I'm in agreement with it. I would support it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Sweeney, comments, please?
Yes, thank you. I walk this street a lot, so I walk by that hedge quite often. I'm concerned that yes, it is an ADU. We have no say over that, but we do have a deck that doesn't meet our guideline of being 15 feet back from the interior lot line. I'm also concerned about the staircase being there. When I lived in college, I lived in a similar situation where that staircase came up to a second floor apartment over a garage, and out of that staircase, we constantly looked into the neighbor's yard. And yes, there's a 12 foot, and we got complaints from the neighbor just because we were college kids. And the hedge wasn't 12 feet, it was 5 or 6 feet. So, you know, we don't know if that hedge, I don't know what property that sits on, I don't know if it's gonna remain 12 feet. So, you know, I have a real dilemma. You know, we just had another project tonight where we were dealing with a deck not in, or a side yard issue and a modification request and an outside deck that didn't meet the 15 feet either. We had this a few weeks ago on another ADU, a few blocks up the street near, I think it was Padre Street, and we had somebody come in with an ADU and we were required to look at the deck, and it wasn't 15 feet from the adjacent property, and it had a staircase, et cetera, et cetera. I just can't support this kind of thing. I think that the staircase is inappropriate in its location, and I think we need to adhere to our guideline of 15 feet back from the property line. So I'm not going to be able to make the findings that probably we have to under 36.2.4 of our guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any comments, please?
Yeah, I have a comment. It seems to me that the staircase is very controversial, and there's nothing under this ADU in the building. Why not put the staircase? This should have been a question as opposed to a suggestion. I think we should put the staircase inside where that space is and then not have it visible outside. That's my comment.
All right, thank you. Boy. Okay, yeah, when I saw this project on consent, the thing that concerned me was the fact that the garage, I didn't understand why the garage couldn't be converted to an ADU if that's the issue. This becomes a duplex. This is actually what it is a duplex. And so I just, aesthetically, I think it's fine, but I'm uncomfortable about the whole approach to this. It's, I don't know. It just makes me uncomfortable. If I can be any more vague, that'd be better. So So I think Mr. Ziegler brought up some excellent point. Why couldn't the stair be enclosed? And then Fred brought up a good point. But the other members did too as well. So here again, I'm kind of on the fence about it. Anyone else have any more comments or thoughts about this?
Mr. Chair, I have one more comment. It's really a comment question. Maybe staff can clarify. It's my understanding after attending the webinar, ADU webinar, that in fact, what can happen on this property is not only can they have this ADU as identified on the drawings, they might be able to do a junior ADU on the space below it that's now identified as an accessory unit. With whatever improvements, they could make that a junior. So you're allowed a junior ADU and an ADU on a single property, as I understand it.
Board Member Sweeney, Mr. Chair, yes, your understanding is generally correct. You can have a regular ADU and a JADU on the same property. I did want to clarify a comment that I made earlier regarding the 12-foot hedge that borders the neighboring property. That would in fact require a minor zoning exception. I was incorrect about that before, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Isn't that at that height, it's an agreement between the two property owners? If it's over, I'm sorry, I forgot what the heights are. We run into this several times before, and we've asked the property owners to come to an agreement between themselves. Because the hedge is
Board Member
The hedge is
Oh, go
not
ahead, Board Member Tisha.
We could have no at all there. We do have a 6 foot or a 12-foot high fence or hedge, and that hedge is, you know, we're talking about a hedge that could go or could stay. There's no really, it's not really our concern about that hedge, is it? It's more concern between the two owners, and our concern is whether, you know, whether we're going to build up to the property line and put that deck on where it should be, and it's not. So the hedge is not really a question in our.
Board Member Motisha, in order to maintain the hedge at 12 feet, the owner and the applicant would have to apply for that minor zoning exception. They're currently allowed an 8-foot tall hedge or fence by right without any additional approval. So again, if they wanted to keep it at 12 feet, it would have to receive that minor zoning exception. And as far as the agreement between neighbors goes, that is sometimes required if a hedge straddles two properties and you know you're dealing with determining who will maintain the hedge, which property owner will maintain the hedge. And yeah, I think that should answer the question. If you do have any additional questions, let me know. Also, I wanted to just make it clear that the accessory dwelling unit itself shouldn't factor into your decision here regarding the deck and the staircase. So if you could just focus your comments on the deck and staircase, that's what's needed for this project.
May I answer a few questions?
Another question? Yeah, I had another question also. I'm kind of out of turn here, but
that's fine.
Is there any way, Tom, where you could move? I'm looking, you've got a lot of grade changes going on here, and I'm trying to wrap myself around that. But is there any way where the stairs could be moved and perhaps that the second lift of steps, could those somehow be integrated off of the other deck so that they would move south on the page, and that would provide the exit off of that deck, and then really the parking would just move north on the page in order to sort of flip-flop this dilemma we're dealing with from a setback and distance standpoint?
So we looked at a few configurations on where to put the steps up to the ADU, and we want an ADU, not a JDU, so we need an exterior access. So the location of these steps being right there is because we're hoping to be able to pull a vehicle underneath that deck. That's the primary reason. And we thought, given that the unit itself is 5 feet from the property line, it could be appropriate to put the stairs at that position. And then they do turn. I mean, one thing we could do is to take those stairs and to turn them another riser into the deck, and that would so that landing that where you turn 90 degrees on the stairs, we could lower that a bit, and then combined with the height of that hedge, which that's such a significant hedge, and it really is a huge part of this neighborhood. You know, these hedges and privacy are very likely going to be there for quite some time, but that could reduce the impact of the privacy issue there. But the location of those stairs is critical. We don't have, the only on-site parking we have and it's not official parking. In fact, the driveway is not really a driveway because there's no longer a garage there, but it is of value to the property. But anyway, so that was the thinking behind that.
So thank you. And Mr. Hamilton, I appreciate, did that answer your question, Leslie? Yeah, it's tricky.
Yes.
These are tricky because our purview here is only the deck and those stairs. So I think we're ready to draft a motion, though, and I request that whatever we draft, that give Mr. Ochsner, direction. But the motion has to clearly address the deck. So could someone entertain a motion for that? Crickets.
Mr. Chair, I can entertain a motion, but it may not get approved, but I can put it on the floor. If it gets a second, we can discuss it.
Okay.
I would move that the applicant return with a design for a new deck that addresses the 15-foot guideline from the adjacent easterly property line off of this ADU, that consideration be made for a reconfiguration of the access stair for the ADU to be integrated with the deck and stair that goes to the first level of the main residence structure, and that incorporates a new entry portal that would use the door that's identified as the fire-rated door going into the ADU. And that when the applicant also returns, that he work with staff to determine the status of the height of the 12-foot hedge between this property and the easterly property. That's my motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I hear no
I'll
second.
second that.
Okay, it's open. Any discussion?
With a setback of 15 feet for the deck, we're looking at 10 feet. Where's the setback? Setback line is right there. 15, looking at no deck at all practically. Or a deck that's only about 4 feet wide.
Well, it says 10 feet to the edge. Anyway, well.
I know. 10 feet to the dotted line, and then another 5 feet. That gives barely a 5-foot deck.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Motisha, for your comment. Would the seconder agree to a language in the motion that says we would like the applicant designer to consider a greater distance to the edge of the deck, recognizing that the guideline requires 15 feet? One might want to consider moving the edge of that deck on the easterly side immediately adjacent to the door jamb on the south side. That could be a consideration. Is that language acceptable to who seconded the motion?
Nobody yet.
I did, Fred.
Oh, you did. Okay, yeah. So if there's no second, the motion dies.
No, Leslie seconded it. Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah, no, I have no problem with that language.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to give, I don't have any problem with that language either, Mr. Sweetie. I would like to give Mr. Oshner the chance to redesign this with a little bit more leeway without us telling him that he can't have what he can't have because it's not going to be there. Yes,
well, I changed the motion so it gives him a little bit more room to get a deck at least the length of the door, the sliding glass door opening.
Okay, that would be approximately 12 and a half. That would approximately 12 and a half feet off the property line.
Right. So that's recognizing his dilemma and giving it a little bit more without being stringent to the 15-foot requirement.
And are we in that? Okay, you also stated that you would like the stairway to be incorporated with the deck to the main house. I can see that. Yes.
Yeah, I think there's a way to do it.
I like that. Thank you.
Okay, Tom, you have your work cut out for you. May I have a roll call, please?
Yeah. Oh.
Yes, thank you. This is Mary,
Can I
Commission
have a
Secretary.
clarification from the board and from staff,
Yeah.
please? Okay,
Say that again.
I think we need
I need a
chat.
point of clarification here. Yeah, so
Okay.
my point of clarification, and this is directed to Ted.
Yes.
Ted? Okay, so I need clarification as to why exterior stairs accessing an ADU are not integral to the ADU and fall under a different, they're not vested in the same privilege that the ADU is. I understand the deck. The deck, there's guidelines, and the applicant needs to show reasons why it could potentially be closer than 15 feet. But can you just confirm to me that an access way to an ADU that requires exterior stairs is somehow not subject to the same privilege that the actual ADU itself is, if it's just bare minimum stairs?
I probably could answer that.
Yeah.
Because it's an issue that probably hasn't been coming up yet. It probably will change and be a new requirement.
I don't see any place that we
And-
have before.
Well, can we have Mr. Hamilton answer Mr. Ochsner's question, please?
Yes.
And Mr. Ochsner and to Mr. Chair as well. I asked the same question to our zoning staff, and the answer had to do with overall just the size of the deck and its location in the interior setback. As I understand it, the stairs themselves do not exceed the minimum, or do not exceed, the size required for egress. But it is that portion of the deck that does. And the stairs are since the stairs are located in the interior setback, then the whole thing requires this review. At least that's my understanding of the process.
Only way you understand.
Mr. Chair, if I may, for Mr. Ochsner's edification and others, this is exactly the issue I brought up when the ordinance was being put together at the hearings with the staff, and I was ignored. I brought this exact issue up, and it was ignored. Nobody wanted to pay attention because I knew this was coming, and now it's here. And so, unfortunately, Mr. Ochsner, because that was not taken into account when they formed the ordinance, we now have to deal with it in this fashion.
Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes, this is Mary, Commission Secretary. I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. We have Chair Miller,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Colas,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
No.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would like to, may I make a comment?
Sure.
Before we continue, and it doesn't, I'm just gonna make a comment. I think we
Yes.
should question answer of whether access to an ADU is under our privy. And if it is not, then that stair can remain where it's at. Because we have no say of where we should have to, where we would like you to put that stairway, because it falls under our guidelines. If it doesn't fall under our guidelines, the stairway can make the deck smaller and you can have what you have.
Well, these are discussion items, Mr. Motisha, that should be probably addressed at a different time.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 4. This is for concept review. This was an item that came before for the consent. and I put it to the full board because I was a little uncomfortable with all the additions to it, but let me read the items. It's 3429 Sea Ledge Lane, concept review, proposal to permit 421 square feet of as-built additions to an existing single-family residence. Project includes new doors, windows, a skylight, and a partial re-roof, and an interior remodel. Project will abate all violations listed on ZIR 2000-00163. Planning Commission review of a coastal development permit is required due to the project's location within 50 feet of the coastal bluff in the appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone. The proposed total of 4,028 square feet of development is 82% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio, FAR. No final appealable action will be taken at this hearing. Project requires neighborhood preservation findings in Hillside Design District and slope lot plannings. The project was last reviewed as SFDB consent December 14th, 2020, and as I said, has been referred to the full board. Hello, Mr. Smith, how are you?
Hello, Brian. How are you today?
I'm very good.
Good, and hello to all the members of the board. Thank you for taking this project and looking at it.
Hold on, hold on a second before we go on.
May I make a few comments about the project before the applicant gives his presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I just want to let you know the project is here for comments only prior to Planning Commission review of the CDP. So we please ask that you focus your comments on the aesthetic appropriateness of the project and identify whether or not the project poses any issues with the neighborhood preservation ordinance. And also I'd like to let you know the project planner is here. If you have any questions for her, she's available for you in the questions.
Okay, and there's actually minutes. Should I have Mr. Sweeney state the minutes?
I believe you can do that if you would like to help your review.
Okay, if Mr. Sweeney, if you could please be so kind to share the minutes from the consent meeting. This is a little unusual.
Okay, this is the 3 items mentioned, identified on the screen.
Yes.
So it says continue indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. 1, study the as-built bathroom located on the east side of the building. Reconfigure the bathroom to fit into the existing home. 2, study the roof lines. 3, the board encourages the applicant to coordinate with the city to provide photographs of materials.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Smith, I think the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So as we were saying, that this is a single-family home on a Sea Ledge Lane, and the owner wants to do some work on the interior to take some space that was garage and storage space and turn it into bedrooms. But in the process of doing that, with adding windows and doors to the outside, changing the exterior, we needed to apply for a coastal permit. When we did that, that's when it turns out that there were portions of this building which had not been permitted. So we're trying to get that done as an as-built sort of thing. So anyways, the heart of the structure, the original building from way back when, was adobe brick around a reinforced concrete wall core. And then over the years, if I could refer you to sheet A3, if staff could do that. Very good. Over the years, there was a sunroom kitchen addition added across the back, which is wood frame with board on bat siding. And then the as-built areas, which are bold lined. There's one on the left was a bathroom addition, and on the right, it was enclosing the space to create a bedroom. These areas And the storage area immediately below on the right-hand side, kind of between that as-built area and the garage, that whole region was added on in the past with board-on-bat siding. So the exterior is a mixture of adobe and board-on-bat. The roof was pretty much a mess. The original portions of the roof were a gable roof, but on the right-hand side, where everything gets angled, there was a real higgledy-piggledy collection of flat roofs. We were hoping to, because everything that the property was all hedged, we were trying to do as little as possible to try and get an approval, but Chair Miller suggested that he wanted to continue over to the full board and to have me re-examine that roof, which I did. And so now if that area has a roof which is consistent with the rest of the house, I have to apologize. I should have had additional photos with this. There are photos with it from the front, but they don't show a whole lot because most of this building is pretty much hidden, except for the garage area, pretty much hidden behind olive trees and hedging. But anyways, if you go to sheet A7, that's okay. You got to keep going, I think. That's the existing floor plan. That's okay. There's another one. If you can't go farther back, then come forward. Okay, one more.
And Mr. Smith, this is Mr. Hamilton. If you know the PDF page number to direct staff to, that would be most helpful.
Ted, I wished I did, and I don't. I thought I was pretty sure I had them put in order when I sent them in. I apologize. That's like the last one. So if they could come forward a couple of pages.
Tom, I'm trying to figure out what are you looking for?
Looking for the roof plan.
Oh, it was in there. You passed it. You missed it. It was there. I saw it.
There it is.
There it is.
Yep.
That's an electrical plan.
Oh, that's a roof plan.
There it is. Yes. Okay. So the roof that's shown on the right-hand side and across the center, that's all the existing roof. On the angled portion on the right-hand side, I've taken the gable roof that was over the garage pantry and brought it all the way out to the outer edge of the garage door instead of having a hip with that little weird flat area. And then I continued the roof around the side on the right as a hip to a gable in the back. So that is all illustrated on sheet A3 and A4. The elevations, if they could go to there. Or A4, A4.1. Hello? There we go. Yes. This is the existing condition of the house. The part that's seen from the street would be the north elevation on the upper right-hand side. And just below it where it says garage northwest elevation, that's what actually faces the street. That's what it shows right now. So you can see it's got that really funny flat roof on the side. If you could go down a bit, yeah. And again, over on the garage northwest elevation, you can see that flat roof projecting off to the side as well. So all those areas I've added on to, you know, I've taken that roof off and redid it with a gable roof with hips. If you could go to the next sheet, which should be A4.1. Okay. This shows the proposed roof. So again, if you're looking at the front of the house or the south elevation, which is the view from the ocean, those portions of the house that had that flat roof, we now have a gable roof that matches the other gables on the house. Originally, the walls would be adobe with a gable end of board on bat, and that's what we've copied on the rest of the house. I know Brian had asked about doing something about that addition where the bedroom is. That area is really, really hidden. It's low, so neighbors don't see it. The property is hedged all around with a pretty high fence and hedge off the street as well. And we're going to be doing so much work on the side, the visible side, over by the garage as it is. I'm just hoping for the clemency of the board to let us just leave that alone, seeing as it's such a hidden location on the property. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Appreciate it. Did we get...
Oh, there they are. Okay. I was afraid that I didn't see everybody else. I thought I scared them all off.
No, we're here. Any
Okay,
public
thank
comment?
you. Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on the GoToWebinar control panel, which indicates that you wish to speak. While we wait for hands, Mary, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thank you, Barbara and Chair Miller. We did not receive any written public comment for this item.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Chair Miller, there are no hands raised, so I'll hand it back to you for questions.
All right, thank you. I just want to go down the list for people with any questions. I just want to say real quickly, I'm very familiar with this home, and it is very hard to see the additions. It's really well secluded, and there's a lot of heavy plant growth around the home. But anyway, so I'm going to go down for questions. Board Member Colas, do you have any questions, please?
No, no questions.
Thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
No questions.
Board Member Motisha, any questions, please?
Yes, is that north elevation? Is that the front door, the arch door with the small window in it?
Yes, it is.
So that's that roof over the entry foyer, I guess, or that could be a half bath or whatever's in there. Is that flat? More of a flat? That's a flat roof. That's
a shed roof right there. Yes.
Here, and is that? I guess behind. I guess as we're looking at that north elevation to the left, over that gable to the back is where you're trying to get as-built approved.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm like Mr. Miller. You're very familiar with it. I'm not familiar with the house at all, but it looks like looks like we're trying to approve something that everybody's saying is not visible, and let's just approve it because it's not visible. Not a good idea. As far as I'm concerned, that's not architecture as far as I'm concerned. Looks like you've done some major changes to the roof on the right of the north elevation as we look at it right there. And you haven't done some things maybe need to be done to the left of the north elevation that are behind that wing. I'm just bringing up the thought and let everybody else make a comment on my comment. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Board Member Sweeney, do you have any questions, please?
We're at questions, correct? Could I see the south elevation, please? Okay, and then I'm assuming it's the east elevation.
East would be on the lower route there.
Right there. Okay. Okay. Great. And you said you have no photographs, correct?
I got photographs late of the back, but I think it was too late to get them submitted.
Okay. So, I'm sorry. So could you go back, Mr. Hamilton, or I don't know who's doing the photographs. You had the Google Earth. The Google Earth, yeah, there we go. Which house is it on that Google Earth drawing or photograph? Which one is it?
Is that the one in the middle? Is it the one in the middle right there?
Right there?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
correct. Yeah. All right, thank you. I'll save everything else for comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any questions, please? Mr. Ziegler, are you there? Where'd he go?
And Board Member
Okay.
Ziegler just sent you a webcam request. It looks like your phone audio should be active.
Well, when he comes back on, we'll pick him up. But let's go back to I have no questions at this time, so I'll move it back to the board for comments. Board Member Lost, do you have any comments, please?
No, I wish we did have more photos. I think it would be helpful. I mean, clearly this is a home that's grown over time, whether that be with or without permits. It's organically grown. I recall going out to a home that I think is the neighboring parcel to this one, which was a pretty modest home many years ago. And, you know, from the drawings here, I think you're headed in the right direction. I'm a little bit concerned about this board and bat area. It doesn't look like the roof lines are resolved. Sometimes that can work. I mean, when homes grow over time organically like this, sometimes an anomaly like that is not necessarily offensive, but it's hard for me to know without more photographs. So that's my really only comment, would be more photographs would be helpful. And I do think that the work you've done on the roof lines in the one area that you enumerated to us is a positive thing.
Thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
No comments.
Thank you. Board Member Motisha, comments?
No comments at this time, but I'd like to see
right.
it to us again. Yes.
Board Member Sweeney, comments, please.
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Motisha's comments earlier during the question period, so I'm gonna zero on that. I too, I'm really having a difficult time making decisions on this project without any photographs, so we really got to have photographs. This is interesting. I'm going to hold up to the screen. You probably can't see it, but I did a design process booklet on a brand new home that I designed for a couple who worked for Disney, Imagineers, and it was a house that was designed to do what this house has done, to look like it had been built over decades of time in different styles and notions, and it's a mixture of stucco and stone and board and bat, etc. And when we got to the bathroom, the client wanted a tub next to a bunch of windows as an appendage to the main bathroom. So this little element down over here got attached to make it look like it was added on at some other period of time in the development of the home, even though this was a whole brand new house. So I can appreciate what that little side bathroom is doing, showing on the north elevation on the left, but it's not doing it quite right yet. I think it needs a lot of help. And so either it gets a gabled roof end and gets incorporated into the two-piece tile that's on the rest of the house, or its rake roof gets reconfigured, or its shape gets reconfigured so that it doesn't stand out as a huge little, if you go to the east elevation, where it looks like it's really not well thought about how it got attached to the original home. So I think that needs to be redone, and this is what gets me back to Mr. Motiz's comment. Just because the house can't be seen doesn't mean that we can't make comments when it comes before our board. And my adulation all along is there are places all homes can be seen, regardless of its location in Santa Barbara. It's unfortunate that Sea Lane Lane is locked off to the public, and so most public can't get down this road to see these homes, and yet they come under our purview as the city of Santa Barbara as being part of what we look at. And this home is hard to see from the walk on the beach off of Henry's Beach as you walk your dog down here, but it can be seen from the ocean. So it's going to be seen, and who knows, in the future, some of the trees may be removed, hedges may be cut, etc. So I do think that if we're going to allow this appendage on the east side to remain, it needs to be reworked, restudied, and perhaps rebuilt in order to make it look like it's part of the rest of the home that Mr. Smith has actually done a really nice job of on the other sides. And I think the same attention needs to be made to this side. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Let me Brian, may I make another comment? It doesn't look from this elevation, it doesn't look like what it looks like from the north elevation. Either that is a gable roof there or it's a shed roof. And are we only looking at that little part that says remove existing French door? Is that the only thing that we're looking at from the north elevation? I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm not quite following you, Joe.
This whole crust. Is that whole roof right there, right below where it says existing wood board and backed?
Yes.
Right there, right on the left, right there.
Yes.
Is that roof that we're looking at? And this little appendage is only about a 10-foot wide little thing?
Yes, yes.
I think I don't see why we can't put this thing that's called a board and back with a little shed roof, put a new roof on that and match out the rest of the house with it. Make it match the rest of the house with the rest of the house is very strong. It has a very strong roof with a tile roof. And all of a sudden you put this little 10 by 10 15 little shed on. This doesn't.
Joe, you're saying exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, thank you. You said it much better.
All right, thank you. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any comments, please?
Well, I'd like to see photographs, but I sort of feel that they want to change the roof, and it's not going to be a big deal. Let's just let them do it.
Okay. Tom, I have a lot of affection to this house. This actually was our old boss's house when I worked for John Sorrell. So I know this house intimately well. And I have to admit, when I first saw this house, I forgot about this stuff. And I just want to say, Tom, I kind of regret you don't have more photographs of the house, especially where that appendage sticks out, because based on these drawings, it does look very awkward and uncomfortable. So I would, highly recommend when you come back that you take a lot of photographs of this house and the surrounding grounds so that it's more uncomfortable of what they're suing. With that being said,
I did. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, but you forgot to bring them, so need to bring them. With that being said, would someone please make could someone please entertain a motion? And I would like to invite someone other than Fred to do it so that he can have a break.
I will go and take a chance at it. Give me a little help. I
Okay.
will continue this project and bring it back to the full board. We do like what you have done to a major portion of the roof to give it some strength and some aesthetic value, but we would like you to do something with the east elevation, east end of the main house, and also bring back some photographs of the house all the way around, showing different elevations of the existing elevations, so we can see exactly. And I'd like to see something done with the entry. You put 2 or 3 gables in there and extended some roofs, and that now gives you a chance to put some more gables in. You don't have to leave those. And I'm sorry, I'm running off at the mouth here.
Yeah, try to frame it into a motion.
Yeah, I would like to see some more gables on the roof with tile to match the roof of the whole house.
Do you have a specific place?
In the east end of the house, the entrance, and yeah, that's my motion. Make it any
Okay.
simpler.
Do I have a second?
Joe, I'll give you some support. I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
You thought you'd get off the hook, Fred. Okay, so did you second it, Fred?
Yes. So,
Okay,
so for discussion, I just want to make sure that the applicant designer understands what we're asking for.
yes, I think that would be a great idea. What are we asking? Could we, Mary, can you please tell us what the motion was spoken?
Read those comments back.
Yes, this is Mary. So the motion is to continue indefinitely with the following comments. The changes to the roof are appreciated. Provide a solution to the east end of the main house. Number 2, provide photographs of the house all around showing existing elevations. And number 3, provide more gables at the entry with tile to match the roof of the whole house.
May I ask a question?
Well, yeah, I have a question too. Go ahead, Tom.
Regarding the front entry, when I get the photos to everybody, it actually, in its current configuration, it looks really charming. And it kind of follows along with the roof on the south elevation where the sunroom is, because it's a fairly long, shallow shed off of the gable roof that runs across the back. So I understand the concern about the master bedroom addition on the far east side. So anyways, I will do as the board wishes, and I'll make sure I got lots of photos to back it up.
I have a quick question, Tom. Quick question, Tom.
Yes, sir.
Was the front entry already permitted, or is that as built unpermitted as well?
No, that's already permitted condition.
Okay, we'll see that then.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Joe, I'm gonna help you see if we can reword the motion a little bit.
Thank you.
Let's eliminate any discussion of the front entry porch and front door and its roof, and instead rephrase the third item, Mary, to indicate that a gabled configuration over the bathroom appendage on the east side be considered.
Does the maker of the motion accept that?
Yes.
Thank you. Mary, could you reread the motion, please?
Yes. So the motion is to continue indefinitely with the following comments. Number 1, the changes to the roof are appreciated. Provide a solution to the roof on the east end of the main house. Number 2, provide photographs of the house all around showing existing elevations. And number 3, a gabled configuration over the bathroom appendage on the east side shall be considered by the applicant.
Thank you.
And then finally, it's getting late, but one thing we forgot, when it says continued, it should be continued to the full board.
Yes.
Correct.
I can add that in.
Okay, thank you. Does the maker of the motion, does the seconder agree with that change of the motion? Verbiage?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. We have Chair Miller,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Koloff,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board.
Okay, I believe that's the last item on our list. So thank you very much and welcome new board members and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.